In 97 minutes, plus obviously the 7 minutes injury time, for her to score then, it's like, are you all right?
Because she's 19.
So know,
she's 19 and she scored what? How many goals she's scored at this tournament already?
Some people it's written in the stars. Good luck to her. She deserves it, but she's young, so let's not put too much pressure on her. But score the winner, if you could, Michelle.
I've actually probably seen Georgia more this past month than I have in the past 12 months. The name of our group chat, we've got a little one going with her for a few years now called the Babs, which is the brothers and boyfriends.
Nice.
Something I've actually probably not really experienced as quite like it really, and I just can't see him. The past couple of games, I can't see him losing.
The opposition, the Spaniards, it's the repeat of the World Cup in Español.
First Euro final for the Spanish. If I'm Chloe Kelly, I'd be raging. Do I think Serena should change it? Absolutely do. She gets her head up and she just looks at Berger and then she just smashes into him thinking, best player in the world. Maybe she's meant it.
This is a healthy discussion.
This is good. Yeah, but you think I'm coming at you?
Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to The Kickback. My name's Shabana Hearn. We're joined by the evil, unemployed twin sister, Russia Littlejohn, on today's show. Coming up for you, England are through to the final of the Women's Euros, their third consecutive major tournament final. Wow, we're going to unpack that semi-final performance. Michelle Adjumang for Prime Minister, anyone? Plus, we'll hear from the brother of George Stanway, John Paul Stanway, on the tournament experience so far. He's been following the girls as a fan, and what it's like watching his sister on her Euros journey. Stay tuned for all of that and much, much more on the way on The Kickback. Do you want to talk about your current employment status? Because you left Shamrock Rovers. The people are keen. They always are like, what's the latest for Russia?
Yeah, I don't know the latest for me. I'm kind of taking it a day at a time right now. All I know is I have, at the end of this week, I am away to Positano just for some more sunshine. And more like a mental break, this one is. And then we're going to do a bit of visualising there and just waiting for maybe Barca or Madrid to pop in.
Got you.
I don't know, I could be like a physio or something for them. So yeah, I don't actually know right now.
That's fascinating. The only thing is that we do know is that you have been in more clubs than Calvin Harris.
I've always said that I do enjoy meeting new people. I love doing an initiation at a new club. I find that more enjoyable than the games sometimes.
Right.
So it's good to get there and sing a song or perform.
Do you actually do an initiation every time?
Probably most clubs. I'll always get to a point where people want initiation. Some teams don't do it. There's some people that are really sensitive and do not want to do it. There's
what, embarrassment?
Just pure, yeah, which I find really fascinating. I get people that I might get up and get a wee nervy giggle, but I'm like, I'm going to perform. I'm a performer. Do you know what I mean? Like, but each to their own. I don't judge anyone. People aren't comfortable doing it. I'm like, that's fine.
But
I'll do it.
But does it give you a feeling of them instantly if they don't do the initiation? Are you a bit like wet wipe?
No, I don't judge. I'm actually, a lot of people, it really some people off.
That's it.
It really gets to some people. They're like, everyone should be doing it. Everyone should be doing it. But I'm just like, whatever. If people are going to get themselves that worked up, I'm just like, just let them be. Like, they're here to play football at the end of the day. They're not here to be a performing monkey. But sometimes I thrive on that.
Right. That's where you really shine, I suppose, when you're out at the club. Initiation, you peak.
That's it. Peak and then it just goes.
And then you do your Achilles.
It goes downwards. It's a downward spiral.
Perfect. Well, if you are a GM of a club in the top flight, preferably, we will be taking your calls. If you are below champ, don't bother. We're not interested. She doesn't care.
And I feel like if everyone is that scared of people doing podcasts these days, behave yourself.
That's another stipulate. She has to manage her own load.
We can work together.
We can work together to manage the load, and she would preferably like to keep the podcast as well. So you have to be on board with that. But think of all the free publicity your club will get.
End of the career and stuff like that. You've got to help people. If I wanted to be a scientist, people would be like, that's great. But because I've got a bit of banter, people get their backs up. Do you know what I mean?
I was watching Niamh Fahey talking about being a scientist the other day.
She's a clever girl. She's a bright girl, Niamh Fahey is.
Yeah.
I'm not quite on the brain level as her, a bit different. So that's why I have to talk nonsense in front of a camera.
And do initiations
exactly.
as often as you can. Let's talk about the Lionesses. Here we are in another final. I mean, that win shouldn't have happened the way it happened over Italy, but it has happened. another final awaits.
That's the thing. You can say what you want in terms of England this tournament. You could probably go as far to say they've been pretty poor, pretty honking. But guess what? They're getting the job done and they're in another final. So I think one thing you can take from that is fine. They're not playing well. They're not performing. But if you're talking about if this was in a league, you're doing what you have to do to win a league, and now they're doing what they have to do to win tournaments. So they've obviously got some kind of like absolute mental resilience, character, belief within their squad, where when they're playing poor and backs against the wall, they're somehow delivering and getting the job done. So credit to them. It's unbelievable.
It's incredible, and the last kind of 20 minutes of that game, it's like, are you for real? Like, I'm talking about the last. Michelle Aime coming on again, 96 and a half minutes into 97 minutes, plus obviously the 7 minutes injury time. For her to score then, it's like, are you all right?
I would argue, like, not even the last 20 minutes still. They were poor.
Yeah.
Like, they were poor. And you've got to give a good bit of credit to Tooney for the goal and Beth Mead. Beth Mead's run really kind of, I think, puts the goalkeeper off. And then Michelle's there and she's got another goal. Do you know what's a wee bit annoying? I'm finding her a wee bit annoying.
Why?
Because she's 19.
So
she's 19 and she scored what? How many goals she's scored at this tournament already?
I know.
Just coming off the bench and just being a massive impact.
Some people it's written in the stars. Like, I felt we've had this conversation coming into this tournament. I'm like, this could be something for Michelle Aime, and there's something about her. She's different. She's cut different. She's a different breed. But also, when Serena Wiegmann got her first game at Wembley as England manager, Michelle Aime was our ball girl. Was the ball girl?
No, she wasn't.
Some things just align. It's like Leah Williamson, the day that Arsenal won the Champions League in 2007, she was the ball girl. It's like some things just they're touched.
Don't get me. I would still say I don't want to put all this pressure on her because I still think she's got a long way to go in terms of like developing and really getting like up to that intensity level. Like when you look at Russo and the work that Russo does, she works tirelessly up front, and she covers a lot of ground, probably does a lot of running that you probably expect that she wouldn't need to do.
Yeah.
But she works and she's constantly pressing, putting the opposition under pressure, making it hard for the back line. And I think that's another bow that Michelle won't add to her game. But there's one thing that you can't knock, and it's her. People could say, well, she's not really, apart from her goals, but the thing is, she's in the right place at the right time and she's got the composure and she's putting them in the back of the net, and that's one of the hardest things to do in football. That's why centre forwards are hard to come by and goal scoring centre forwards. So it's exciting.
And what was nice actually about full time the other night when they'd gone through and everyone's singing Sweet J-Mang, whatever, I felt like she took that moment as if like arrived, like this is actually happening. Whereas in the other games, she's had that, get the ball, I'm celebrating, we're going again. We keep going. Whereas I think the other night she realised, maybe I'm absolutely made for this and I'm really good at this.
I think she's obviously, she's humble, but it's more the girls pushing her forward, going, take your moment, here you go. But if I remember rightly at the start of the tournament, there was a clip of Michelle and Leah Williamson doing an interview. And I think Leah was kind of like, whatever she
said, big up your chest, like be proud of yourself.
But I think that was Leah's like, you deserve to be here.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? Like, we know that you deserve to be here without putting pressure on her. That's not you should be starting, you should be this, but you deserve to be part of the squad. And in time, you will probably become the centre forward for the Lionesses or whatever that looks like in a few years' time, whenever it may be. I get age is just a number, and if you're good enough, you're old enough. So, but it's good to see even the players. I think it was Alex Greenwood pushing her forward. The girls speaking to her after the last couple of matches, and they're just like, but obviously she's just young and humble and a bit like, she's probably still finding her way in the squad with some of these girls. She probably doesn't even speak to some of them. She's still a bit like, but I think this is just going to help her, and it's great for the Lionesses. It's great for her. And another thing is it's actually great to see a young black girl, because there's also been a lot of debate about that over the last few years about, how do we get more people with different ethnic background through, and here she is, so she's going to be inspiring a generation of young girls and boys.
I remember, was it on the eve of the European final in England a few years ago? I remember it was the front page and the back page of all the papers, and it was highlighted of the whiteness of the Lioness squad, and it's in such a multicultural country. It was staring you right in the face there at that point. Why was England not as diverse as it once used to be?
Yeah.
And we've had these conversations many times on the show. We've spoken to guests about, the cost it can take for families to get there. Players having to drop out at a young age because their families can't afford to, get them around or get them to training. You're right, Michelle Agyemang has just, not only did the Lionesses change things a few years ago, and they've been doing that for quite some time, but Michelle Agyemang has changed another group of young girls who might be looking and going, well, if I don't see me, I can't be me if I'm not represented. And there are other black players and players of colour, of course, in the squad. But Michelle, man, wow.
Everyone, I think for her right now, even right now, we've started this show and we've dived in very heavy on Michelle. But the thing is, there's going to be these worldwide, especially in the UK, of just companies and people wanting access to her, wanting a piece of her. Her life has literally changed after this tournament. And I get the Lioness's life did change after the Euros win. But for this young girl, it's like she is now.
It's funny. I don't know if I should say this, and I think it's fine. But Jamie, my husband, he's been aware of Michelle for a few years. He's been talking about Michelle Agyemang, hasn't he? And has kind of gotten to know her dad, and he's very much so clear that Michelle is protected and cared for by her family very, very closely. It's her dad and her mum are very, very linked to her. They're very close to her. They're with her through all of the games, through all of the journey so far. Because she's only 19, she's still very much so at home with them. But it's amazing how that will change for them. They'll be having the agents on the phone, they'll be having the big brands. What's the next step for this group as a family,
Yeah, but that's the way the game's going, and there was a time where that wouldn't have happened, and it's happening now, and it's great because she's now going to get to fulfil her dream of being a professional footballer and now get the rewards of it. And you've got people look back even 10 years ago that maybe didn't have access to the rewards of what you would have now. Like, she will be comfortable, she'll be happy, and what's nice to hear is that what you're saying about is like the strong family unit. She'll be guided now, so that's great. You see some people and they maybe don't have that support network. She's got that, so that's going to be massive for her going forwards.
She'll be focusing on her football. The teams now around, not your football team, the teams around these women now are different. You have your teams, you have your publicity, you have your managers, you might have an assistant, you have those who work with brands, you have those who work with the clubs, you have the PRs at the clubs, you have your press, all of these big teams around you. I can just imagine right now, Michelle probably sitting in her room after training, I don't know, maybe
playing with Barbies.
Playing with
Brushing her Barbies hair.
Doing her Barbie's doll's house, catching up with, Peter Rabbit, and she'll be so unaware of the noise outside.
The thing is, social media plays a big part in that now, and her socials will be pinging unless she's taking a back seat a little bit. But I think it's hard unless she's turned off a lot of notifications and stuff like that. You spoke to me about this not so long ago,
What?
early
I've
on in
there
the
was
tournament.
one thing I've been right about this whole time. It's Michelle Jemang.
Yeah, but does this now mean that Arsenal have to go, you're back in, you're with us, you ain't going anywhere?
She's recalled.
That's it, like you are very much, they'll probably have to now guarantee her a lot more minutes. They'll have to somehow fit
Her and
Russo and Michelle.
Is Stina
strikers.
gone? Is Stina gone?
I don't know, like
That's where it
without Stina, Arsenal aren't looking at a Champions League, but right now we do know that English players will probably take priority right now in the WSL.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting to see. Had she not, do you know what, if she's not come on and scored these goals, but obviously Serena's been like, I want you on the pitch. She's seen what she can do at training. She knows that she's capable of scoring goals. So she's like, you're on the pitch. Arsenal now have to probably go, you're back in the squad. And you look at Arsenal's previous, Lauren James, Chloe Kelly, who's now back at the club. Who else? There was another absolute star.
Who's recently come back?
Not recently come back, left, and Arsenal were probably kicking themselves going, But right now it's like, they can't afford to let her go.
Yeah.
She's young, she's good enough, she's got the support network, she's mature. They're going to need to have her part of their squad this season.
Yeah, I completely agree. The Brighton move was probably a good season to get her going in the WSL, get her used to the levels, get her used to the demand. Whereas I cannot see Arsenal letting her be anywhere else but under their roof.
It's impossible now.
Come September.
It's absolutely impossible. It won't happen now. She will be, whatever, there'll be room made way for her to be part of that squad.
Fascinating. Listen, you're right. We have now just spent a full 20 minutes talking about Michelle Ajimang. Good luck to her. She deserves it, but she's young, so let's not put too much pressure on her. But score the winner, if you could, Michelle. And bring it home.
You, honestly, your nanny would be turning in her grave right now. You need to have a long, hard look at yourself.
It's just this
You
saying.
actually get to me a wee bit when you talk like that.
Is this what this energy is about?
It's not this energy.
Is it because of the Lionesses?
No, you've started your racketing and you think that you think I'm coming at you. You know, it's the racketing.
She came in for me today and she came for me.
I literally came. Do you want to talk on that subject right now? What we just spoke about? What you think I came at you for? You basically said...
Yeah, okay, I think...
You said Chloe Kelly will be starting and I went, well, no, she should have been starting already. I said after her last game, she should have been starting. 2 absolutely banging quality assists, bangs her penalty in. If I'm Chloe Kelly, I would have been furious I wasn't starting that last game. Yeah. And again, she comes on with a very positive influence on the team. So I'm like, I don't think Serena will change it. I don't think she will. If I'm Chloe Kelly, I'd be raging. Do I think Serena should change it? I absolutely do. Do I think Chloe Kelly should be starting right now? 100%. I don't think Serena's going to do it.
But the reason that conversation got to this point is because I had said that Serena has made changes because she dropped Jess Carter and started Esme Morgan. And you said, is it to do with what Jess Carter went through with the social media abuse? I don't think it was that. I think Serena has dropped Jess because she hadn't had a strong enough performance and she's put in Esme Morgan, whereas you were saying that you think maybe Serena's done it to take what might be the heat or the intensity that Jess is going through just now, you know, with the arseholes on social media, and maybe that's affecting her. You know, I think the conversation would have been, you know,
I get what you're saying, but I do think Serena's maybe protected her. I also look at Serena and I could go...
But you're not protecting a player by taking them away from that opportunity.
Yeah, I think they've had a conversation behind closed doors and it's maybe went like, look, this is what it's going to look like and this is maybe for you. She might be going performance-wise, oh, this isn't helping, so she might be going, I'm taking you out of the limelight a little bit. Do you know what I mean? She's not saying, you're thinking you're rotten.
Can we meet in the middle? I'm not saying Serena's going to say you're thinking rotten, but Jess had a poor game that day. Now, whether all this stuff was in the build-up to it.
My point on that is, in these games, so Serena goes, OK, you're left back the first game, OK, wasn't happy with that. You're centre back, all right, you're back out to left back, however she's doing it. And I'm going, but the way the Lionesses are playing, we all know Jess Carter's not lightning quick. She can move, she can shift, but she's not lightning quick. The opposition she's been playing are. I would argue that England's counter-press and stuff like that has not helped Jess, so protect your players, know your players. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, I could argue the whole team has not helped each other out, and maybe teams went, we're going to play down that side right now and try and utilise our pace, and they've exposed her. But I would argue our teammates have not helped her. Serena has not helped her with how they've been playing. Their counter-press has been shocking. They're not so good at smothering out, winning the balls and breaks and just starting attacks. They've not been doing that.
But this
and
is
I feel like that.
This is a healthy discussion.
This is good, yeah, but you think I'm coming at you. That's what you just said. You think I'm coming at you. We had a difference of opinion, that's it. And it's your racketing. That's just your racketing, guys.
It's racketing.
Racketing.
I've started acne treatment, and apparently it drives you loco. So
Here,
don't at me your BS.
I was on the socials this morning before coming in. You'd tagged me in something, and I hadn't accepted it. Still don't think I did, but I was reading the comments, and somebody calls us lemon-faced sisters.
I know.
And then goes on to say acne-faced sisters. And I'm like, what's lemon-faced? And I was putting it into Google. I was like, what does that mean? A book came up, and then it was something like not very bright or something like that. And I thought, well, fair enough.
I'm getting trolled AF right now, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of enjoying it. And what's amazing about this tournament is, we were discussing earlier on, and you might have noticed this yourself, is the actual change in approach from so many different audiences, maybe an audience who weren't interested 3 years ago or wanted to just fight the fact that it was happening 3 years ago. Whereas now people are genuinely like, here, the Lionesses, this tournament's been entertaining. You know, it has something different. We're just in a different time, and thank God for that.
Another thing on that,
the trolls live on.
there's actually people like yourself, Cass, like yourself, that are like, you would call yourself a Scottish woman with an Irish background.
Yeah.
Is how you would have been very more pro-Irish.
And very proud. Very proud.
There's people now from Scotland and Ireland that are all hanging out with the Lionesses, and I'm like, I'm a bit like, right, guys, that's great. We can be like, yeah, they're good at football, but there's people now, they're like falling in love with them
Because they've
they're
changed
seeing
everything.
No, and I respect that, and I'm really happy that they've got that power and that presence and that platform, and they use it to good use. And I think we're going to see a lot more after this tournament, what they're pushing for.
Yeah.
But I find it mad that there's so many people now that are actually just, they're seeing them on social media. They're like stalking their socials. They're seeing them just on interviews, adverts. They're seeing them in shops. They're seeing them on brands everywhere, and they're like just infatuated by them. And I'm like, this is people from Ireland, people from Scotland, and I'm like, it's actually mental. But I'm like, do you know your history? Do you want to get the history books up? But no, it's actually great. It's great to see them using their platform. And
Absolutely, and like even like, you know, you've been a footballer all your life, right? But cousin Shannon, right? Has she ever been at one of your games?
no, sure.
Whereas she sat down and she's hooked by the Lionesses. She's on their Instagram. She's completely in there.
She knows who does what, who's got this sibling, who's married to this, who's
knows
whose partner
everything.
that is. Aye.
They are. They've not just changed women's football. They are changing people's thinking and women's thinking in sports completely everywhere. And for that, they've got me as well. I don't care. I'm in. I want the Lionesses to win.
If you could spend an afternoon brunch,
Oh God.
this is shocking that I'm even saying this, but this is just, but I think people like you and these other girls that are now tuning in that aren't actually football fans.
We're fangirls.
But you're just like fangirls on another level now. Who would you spend a brunch with? You can pick 3 players.
Lucy Bronze. Aime. I mean, I crush on Russo a little bit, but I don't know if she'd enjoy my weirdness. So stick Chloe Kelly in there, maybe. Maybe we could have a little drinksy poo.
I think I'd rather go to the morgue. Be more banter there.
Right, okay.
You and all them like that. I'm like,
Oh, the good thing is that you wouldn't be invited. Okay, yeah, well, like we say, this tournament has just been sweeping everybody up. By the way, the viewers are in from the last game against Italy, 10.2 million across the ITV platform. And somebody said that people don't care. joining us now live from Switzerland, where he's following his sister's Euros journey, is John Paul Stanway. Hi, John Paul, how are you?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Which Lioness are you related to? Just kidding. How are you getting on?
Doing all right. A bit tired today after the last few days. It was a long trip to Geneva, a long bus straight back after the game because we're all based in Zurich. I'm not sure if everybody knows that, but yeah. So a bit tired today. It's definitely been a long, upwards of a month. So you know we're struggling through.
Honestly, I've been following your journey on social media. Yesterday, I got a bit jealous because you were out diving in and backflipping off things onto the lakes and stuff like that. It looks like everyone's having a good time.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's nice that we're all in the same hotel together as a families. You know, I was a little bit hungover yesterday from the game. So the only way to cure a hangover really is to dive headfirst into some cold water, which we managed to gather some troops up to go and do down at the lake in Zurich.
I'm glad you're having a good time, and you've been on the journey from the beginning as well. How's Georgia getting on? How's camp going? How's the feeling amongst the women?
Yeah, it's good. We went out for some food last night. There was a few of us at a local Chinese restaurant, so it was nice. Just nice to chat to them. Nice to take the mind off the football a little bit and hopefully a bit of normality again. So yeah, no, everyone's pretty fine. Everyone's pretty good.
How important is that, do you feel, like you's been there as a family to support your sister, and just how much kind of time do you get together just to try and keep it normal and just keep everyone relaxed even though you're at a major tournament?
It is. It's that kind of bring that calmness and normality to it all, I suppose. I've actually probably seen Georgia more this past month than I have in the past 12 months because she's based out in Munich. So it's been nice to connect. You know, at match day +1, we always have some sort of family meet up. We've had a bit of time in the evening. So yeah, it's just about getting people together and having that calmness for everybody and just calm it down, leveling it out again. Match day +1. And and then obviously you drive on again to next game.
So what's this? Sorry, I hear that you're quite into the high rocks training. Are you rallying the troops in for that? I think Shaban here could do with a bit of training if you want to get her on board.
JP, man, I'm out of breath going up the stairs, so we need to start from the beginning there,
Yeah, we've had a couple of high rock sessions. We've been scouting Switzerland for a couple. Alex's boyfriend Jack, their agent Sam. I've got one booked this afternoon with Giorgio Russo as well. Ash Hodgson, I think Shaban. She was telling me about you before.
Yeah.
He's been on one with us as well. So yeah, we've been trying to keep the fitness up in the midst of everything else going on as well.
Do you know what I think, JP? I'm sorry, I've gone to calling you JP already, but when I look at the groups of you and Giorgio, for example, obviously, who's been spoken about loads over here at the minute because of Love Island and whatever like that, and then I look at like Chloe Kelly's hubby and whatever, and I'm like, remember when England men would go to a major tournament and then they would focus on the wags? You guys are now the male version of that, like inside the Sun newspaper. It's so weird. What's it like for you lot?
Well, firstly, I don't think you're getting with your sister. I'm going to put that out there.
I'll let you in. The name of our group chat, we've got a little one going for a few years now called the Babs, which is the brothers and boyfriends.
Nice, like that. That's good.
We've kind of coined that phrase over the past few years, which we've now got a fair few of us in that group chat. We keep trying to add to it as we go.
That's cute. The brothers and boyfriends. John Paul, when Russia went to the World Cup a couple of years ago, she was well, she was going through stuff, so I decided to just go to her room each night and order wine. She wasn't allowed to have any, but I did put it on her bill. I think it's great that you lot are there and it looks fun and you're having a good time. And I mean, let's not forget about the entertainment you've had along the way as well. I mean, I don't know how you go through that. I feel what Russia feels when she's on the pitch. How do you feel what they feel when they've been on the edge of going out on numerous occasions?
It's something I've actually probably not really experienced as quite like it really, and but it's funny because I've had this conversation with Doran, who you spoke to, George's agent, and we were asking about the game and how they think they're going to get on, and I just can't see him. The past couple of games, I can't see him losing. They're just too relentless, and even when it is the last minute or the last second, and there's one chance, you still felt at 94 minutes that they still weren't going to go home, which is weird. It's a weird feeling to feel that 1-0 down, might not always be going for you, but it still didn't feel like we were ready to go home. And that's a credit to the team and everybody that's involved in that, really, that even though we are is a minute away from going home, and still doesn't feel like we're ready to do that yet.
Yeah, I think even watching the games here, like obviously watching the Lioness for some time now, you know how good they can be. But even when they're not playing how you're used to seeing them play recently, they're still in that bit as a viewer, you're going, they're still in it. They're still in this game. And we were watching the game the other night and she's going, they're going home, it's over. And I'm like, takes a second to score a goal and you just keep believing in them. But how would you see this as like your sister? Obviously you've known her and you've probably played football with her growing up. Has she always had that mental resilience? How do you look at her like that?
Yeah, she's probably one of the most mentally strong people I know. Growing up with 3 brothers that she's had to fight with for attention. She was the one who became the professional footballer to the heights that she's at. The way that she's moved and changed environments when she kind of felt that she needed to. And obviously the injury that was earlier in the year. It's a consistent mental battle, and that's what she's made for.
John Paul, can I ask you about what it's like being a man who's been an ally for women's football all through your life because of your sis? But over here, there was a conversation on the sports bar at talkSPORT about seeing Serena Wiegman move into the men's game. It's something now, what feels like this tournament, people are now more willing to have these conversations. Is that something that you ever think about, or are you just focused on the women's game growing for itself?
Yeah, I'm just focused on the women's game going for itself, really. Everybody can have those conversations. I'm not here to kind of create any headlines either. And at the end of the day, football's football. And if you like watching football, then you should enjoy watching football no matter who's playing. And that's what true football fans should really be like. Football's football. If you want to watch it, watch it. If you don't. But no, I don't really entertain those kind of conversations. I know where it's come from. I know how it's grown over the past 10, 15 years. To be part of it, to see it, it's the way it's gone is, it's incredible. And hopefully it just keeps going, really.
Fair play. Fair play. I mean, it's one of those things where there are men who have loved it for what it is, like yourself, and invested in it for why you're invested in it. But it is starting to catch on with a lot more men now who maybe weren't once interested. And that was interesting hearing Giorgio Russo saying that in the Love Island villa, there were so many of the guys just having conversations about it as well. It's becoming the norm.
Yeah, well, it's exactly that. And if you enjoy football, that's probably the headline, really. If you enjoy football, you enjoy football. Whether it's your under-8s kids playing, whether you're going to watch somebody at non-league and you're paying a £5, whether you're just rocking up at a Sunday league team, whether you're League 2, League 1, men's football, international football, women's football, football's football. And if you can enjoy it for what it is, then, that's all you need to do, really.
Yeah, that's the main thing. It's there for absolutely everybody. Listen, talk to us about the next couple of days. How do you chill out, take your mind off things? How are the families all doing together?
Well, we're down into crunch time now, I suppose. The girls have been here a month. We've been here a month. Everyone's been flying in and out, so we're down to crunch time. I think we've seen all the ends of Zurich, and there's not much more for us left to see. But we've got a lot of people here at the minute. Hopefully, we've got some things planned. I'm actually doing a bit of workout here as well, which has been good. I'm able to work online, so that's been nice to break things up. Some fitness things, as you mentioned. We're trying to get some paddle tournaments organised again. Might try and drag everyone out for a night out before Sunday as well.
Is this what you want to do, John Paul? Do you want to do the influencing people in health and fitness? Is that the kind of line of work that you want to focus on?
No. I work in social media marketing for like kind of local businesses. So it's something I picked up a couple of years ago. I've done a lot of traveling myself, and then grew a bit of a following online, and then switched it to local businesses, which I've been helping them online for. On social media and through their marketing for the past 2 or 3 years now. So that's generally what I do. The fitness is just something that, keeps me mentally stable.
Who wins the High Rocks battle, you or Giorgio Russo?
I've probably, after the month I've had compared to the month he's had, I think it'll be Giorgio will be picking me. What's today?
And one final thing was
He's only allowed 2 drinks. He's only allowed 2 drinks in Love Island. I've had way more than that.
I can imagine you'll need it after some of the things you've been watching. At the end of the Italy game, were the pizzas coincidental? We've seen all these pictures over here of the Lionesses after beating Italy, going through the stadium with pizzas. Was that?
Yeah, no, they get pizzas after every game.
Oh, they go.
It's not it wasn't it wasn't a message to Italy. People can say it as well if they want, but no, they get pizzas pretty much after every game. They had one after Wales, and I'm not sure the Welsh should have been much known for the pizzas, so there was just no cameras on us at the time.
See, this is what the press do. This is what they do. They're like, oh, Lionesses eat pizza to rub it in the face of the Italians. Classic.
Well, to be fair, I don't think Georgia had any. We just had, I think we got busted on ITV for nicking it all over pizza.
John Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to come on today. Enjoy the next couple of days, supporting your sister. Enjoy it as a family. And just know that everyone here is rooting for the Lionesses. Keep going.
No, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. Hope it was okay for you all.
Very insightful.
Thank you.
Thank you, John Paul. All the best. And we'll
Thank
see you
you
very soon. You should hire John Paul to work.
Do you know
in your
what? I was
market.
just ready to say, if you're looking for somebody rogue, that you really want to challenge yourself, with what I could come out with, you don't know.
Well,
so if you want to manage my socials, let's
he
do it.
mentally likes to challenge himself, so
Yeah.
you would send anyone up
Could
the
really
walls.
challenge him.
You know, very much so. I mean, you do feel it as a sibling. Do you know what I mean? You feel it all as a sibling.
I think now the difference, like for them, is they've won a Euros, they've got to a World Cup final, they're now in another Euros final, and it's like so much pressure, and they'll be seeing everything on social media, they'll be seeing everything in the press, and even that is just a lot more pressure, and you've got that bit of people going like, they've been not good enough there. Do you know what I mean? But they're still in a final. So right now it's good to see them, like, good morale, they're keeping busy, families are there, and that's so important for the players, just having that wee bit of normality and that bit of time with their families just to relax and take their minds off, like, yes, we're in another final, but let's just keep enjoying it, take it a day at a time, and that'll just help hopefully put them at ease a little bit.
When we were in Australia, 2 summers ago, camp was in Brisbane, and I was there for talkSPORT. And no offence to Yes, but the budget, right? The place that I was in, the fire alarm kept going off at 3 in the feckin' morning. I said, do me a favour. And then after the first leg back, you were like, well, why don't you come and stay with me for the night? Well, didn't I find myself right at home? It was like the nicest hotel in Brisbane.
Yeah, it was a beautiful hotel.
Stunning.
Yeah.
What's it
I can't
called
even remember
again?
the name. I can't remember the name, but it was one of those, and it had like in the morning you'd press your button and the curtains would open.
Yeah.
Not them curtains, like the blinds. Do you know what I mean?
Blinds would open. and then
and then it had
your mirror turned into the TV.
Yeah, it had that, and then it had like you could open up and see in the bath, and you could press the other thing, and then it had this massive bathtub, like.
And I'd be in the bath.
Luxury bath.
Hey!
She'd be actually walking about my room in the scud, taking herself from one side of the room round to the bath, phoning room service, getting wine up to the room.
So nice.
And but you know what? It was good. It was good fun, and I think at that time it was good to have you there for a bit of support.
Yeah. She was loco. You were on Rakuten then. She was a little bit crazy, you know. So yeah, it's nice that the players have their families around them out in Switzerland. Let's just talk briefly about the opposition, the Spaniards. It's the repeat of the World Cup final.
First Euro final for the Spanish. What I will say is,
how's that?
Watching the game last night, Spain were not popping how Spain can pop.
Agree.
They were not. Oh, I was like that. Pass the ball. They just kept going direct, kept going long. But they weren't even just doing the like close knit passes. The centre mids always go over like this distance and all that, popping it, just try to suck people in, and they ping off them, and one pass move, triangles all over the gaff. They weren't doing it. They wanted to do it like for 1 minute after they scored. I was like, why have you not been doing this all game?
Yeah.
Anyway, bought my tea. Wow. I was like, did she mean it? Did she mean it? And then there's a clip, there's like an angle, and I actually think she gets her head up and she just looks at Berger, and then she just smashes it. I'm thinking, best player in the world. Maybe she's meant it. Get her on the phone and ask her. Get her on the wall.
Yeah.
Get her
Tana.
She's not been returning my messages for a while now.
Has been back to you?
Has not. Is upset. Weeping. Sorry. But I was actually, do you know what? Actually gutted for the Germans. They put so much into it, and I was actually a wee bit disappointed. I'm going, just go to penalties. Go to penalties. But they done so well, and I think the Germans were a bit exhausted. A couple of games down to 10 players for a long majority of the game. But they'll be gutted, and Berger will be gutted because she's been outstanding.
So good.
To be done at that near post at that time in the game, and there's just a few factors to the goal where they'll be going, how's that happened?
Yeah.
But credit to the Germans, they've put the German team back on the map. They're a quality nation, but Spain are in the final. Spain, England, it's going to be a juicy one.
It's a repeat, baby. Part of our talkSPORT team out in Switzerland in Zurich today, Angelina Kelly joins us from the Lionesses Hotel to look ahead to the final against Spain. Angelina, brilliant to see you. Just looking quite cosy right now in the Lioness Hotel. Where is that on a level with like where Republic of Ireland stayed in Brisbane? Because that was like 5-star. Is this like a 6-star?
I think it could be a 6-star. You know, there's actually a red carpet as you arrive. And I mean, you've got bathrooms that have got different buttons for different light settings. It's very, very bougie. I'm feeling very much at home, I must say.
Before we focus then on the Lionesses, how come talkSPORT managed to whip out the biggest budget? I mean, when I went to Brisbane, Ange, I may as well have been going with my backpack. It was like I was travelling as a student. Honestly, and you guys you're staying with Spain. You're staying in the Spain hotel. I'm so jelly.
I know, it was absolutely insane. We arrived back in Zurich yesterday, and there's actually like a giant, I don't know if it's like a cow or a bull at the entrance of the hotel, and the Spain players have signed it. So I don't think we can get that back to talkSPORT Towers, but that would have been pretty cool if I could have got that. But yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, Courtney Sweetman-Kirk was in a lift with Aitana Bonmati. I mean, does it get better than that?
No, that's pretty cool. What would you do, Ru, if you saw Aitana on the lift? Because Rush is obsessed with Aitana.
Yeah, I mean, she's star girl, isn't she? I don't know. I maybe got awkward. I might not have said anything. I just smiled.
Would you panic?
I don't want to pester her.
Right.
I don't want to come on too strong where she's like, security, get her out. So it would have just been a,
what if she
how
went,
you doing?
Russia Littlejohn?
I said, look, Aitana, enough. Aitana, back off. I'm trying to go about my business today.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
So,
Ange, what's the vibe then? Because there's a press conference happening right now. What's the vibe with the Lionesses?
Yeah, you know what? The vibe has been really, really good out here. I must say, when it comes to the fans, it's been brilliant. I was actually at the Germany-Spain game last night, and there were a lot of England fans, fans from all over, really. And when it comes to the England fans, I spoke to one who I think has probably travelled the furthest. An Australian girl who just loves the Lionesses, travelled all the way from Sydney. We actually came across a family, a Scottish woman who moved to England, and decided that she wanted to support the Lionesses because her wife is English. She's got a daughter who's English, and was sat with an England hat on, with a shirt on. They reckon they'd spent about £4,000 on this trip, and they said it's worth every penny. And speaking to people like Tash Dowie out here saying, you know, when I was playing for England, you wouldn't even think that fans would be doing that. So to see the growth is amazing. But within the team, it all seems really positive. I know that the players were invited to watch the game last night. It wasn't mandatory, but it was on, and a few players were watching it, and obviously, you know, spending time with their families, etc. So it all seems very chilled, the quiet, the calm before the storm of the final.
Okay. Has the news reached Switzerland and the camp yet that Serena Wiegmann is apparently going to get a damehood?
You know what? I'm sure that's a question that we'll be putting to them. But you know what? I'm here for it. I will say that in the press conference before the Italy game, she was asked about, you know, how she feels about Britain and the fans and everything. And she didn't swerve it in a negative way. But I don't know if Serena is somebody who has adopted Britain as her nation, so to put it. So I guess it would be up to her if she wanted it. But when it comes down to the football, if Gareth Southgate is Sir, then I think why shouldn't she get a damehood? It's completely warranted, and I hope she gets it, and I hope she completely relishes in it. I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah, she is the kind of person who absolutely deserves it. You know, she won a trophy for England. She's taken them to a World Cup final and potentially might win them another one. So,
but is that something that's not maybe more for people that were maybe born in the country England, where they might respect it more? So, if I was offered to be a MBE, I'd be like, I'm all right, thanks. Do you know what I mean? So Serena might be like, I'm here to be the manager of the Lionesses and I want to make them win trophies. But who knows, she might go, yeah, okay, I think it's an honour, and because of how I've loved the team and stuff like that, I will accept it. So it's probably, yeah, it's up to the person. Obviously, Gareth Southgate being English himself, it's a massive deal for him. So
just imagine she's just like, no thanks. Because you know the Dutch are like the most straight talking people. She'll be like, no, I say no, thank you. Thank you.
Goodbye. No.
That would be so good. And so awkward at the same time. Then they'd all be like, get her out! Get her out of our country! Would be on our back. Angelina, it was a good game last night, but this is a final that we've seen not too long ago. How do you feel as a Lioness fan going up against the Spanish? Because they've been tough to watch at times, the Lionesses, this campaign.
Yeah, I mean, they've not made it easy, have they? It's gone down to the wire. It's been multiple great escapes. I think after watching the game last night, I feel a little bit more confident just because, like you guys were saying, you know, some of the players were not on it. I mean, you've got someone like Bonmati. She is the star of the show and has proven that she can win you a game. But you looked at, you know, Claudia Pina being subbed off, Esther Gonzalez being subbed off, Mariana Caldente was giving the ball away quite a bit. So the fact that they weren't on their A game, and I was at the game with Adrian Durham and we were having a conversation about this, and you look at Spain and the group that they were in and the way that this tournament's gone for them. They've never really had a game like England's had where the pressure is really, really on, apart from last night. So maybe it's an intensity thing with Spain that they've not had to perform to the highest intensity. And maybe with that Germany game, they had to wake up a little bit, whereas England have had constant high intensity. It's been stressful, but maybe that could serve them well in the game. But I think somebody like Pina, the set pieces that she creates, you know, I'm thinking the defence have really got to have the game of their lives. But I think it will be interesting how England will approach this one, because will it be similar to the way that Arsenal approached the Barcelona game? And you look at somebody like Alessia Russo, who puts in such a shift for England, and she put in a shift at that Champions League final as well. And then they subbed her off for Blackstenius, who managed to get the goal. Could we see something like that maybe with someone like Michelle Adjeman? Will she have that kind of impact? And you would think that they're maybe looking at the way Arsenal won that Champions League final and taking inspiration, because you've got such a crossover of the players. So I think feeling a little bit more confident after watching that game, you know, talking as well, you know, at breakfast this morning, we were talking about Kweku and how amazing she is, very much a kind of Busquets kind of image. It's going to be really difficult with that Spain midfield, and that's going to be a really key moment. I think she's going to be a really key player. I think sometimes with Bonmati and Patea, she is a little bit underrated at times, I would say, but I think she's going to be really important after watching her last night.
Okay, Ange, give us a prediction before we let you go.
Oh, predictions. You know what? I've got to be positive. How can I not be positive? So I was going to say it's going to be 1-1. We're going into the 80th minute. Michelle's coming on and she's winning us the game in the dying minutes. So that's what, you know, in Michelle, you know, they say in Serena we trust, in Michelle we trust. And that's what I am hoping is going to happen.
Angelina Kelly, our reporter out in Switzerland. If I don't speak to you beforehand, have the best time. And good luck with it all. Enjoy the journey.
Thank you.
Take care, Angelina. Thank you. I said the exact same thing today. I see the matchup of what was Arsenal and Barcelona. I see this very Barca Spain side, this very Arsenal Lioness presence. And I see Michelle Adjeman winning it in the 80th odd minute for the Lionesses, and that'll be it.
What I see right now is two teams that are they both got to a final, so how can you actually say they're both not firing? But I think the two of them have had maybe a game each where they've scored over, 3-4 goals? And apart from that, they've been struggling to score goals. Both teams have been leaking chances against oppositions, but not being punished. So it'll be interesting to see how they match up against each other. Is it going to be goals in the game? Maybe not. Is there going to be a few chances? Yes. Therefore, I think it'll still go to extra time.
Yep.
And it could go to penalties.
Who wins?
I'm just going to go... I'm only going for this because Spain have the trophy cabinet to complete. So I'm going to go with Spain win on penalties.
Okay.
And that's all. I'm just going because they're going to complete the cabinet. That's it.
Fair enough. Rusha, we will see you on Monday after we know the outcome of the game. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you see this final going between the Lionesses and the Spanish? A repeat of the World Cup final in 2023. Either way, however you're watching it, enjoy, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Today we say goodbye to a legend of sports entertainment. Hulk Hogan has died. WWE commentator Todd Grisham tells us why Hulk Hogan's had such a lasting impact on popular culture outside wrestling.
You know, he was kind of at least in my life, kind of like the first superhero come to life. You know, you could watch the Batman movies, the Batman cartoons, the Superman comic books, but this was a guy you could go watch and you could see, and he was always defying the odds. The irresistible force meets the immovable object. I mean, the guy that body slammed Andre the Giant, he could do things that no mortal man could do. And, you know, he always had that positive message, you know, say your prayers and take your vitamins. How could anybody be against those two things?
Hulk Hogan, real name Terry Jean Bollea, had been recovering from surgeries. He was 71. Now, we understand Alexander Isak wants to leave Newcastle. The man who broke the story is the Daily Mail's chief football reporter, Craig Hope.
He's told the club he's keen to explore his options, and this is the situation we're at now. He hasn't travelled out here with the rest of the squad to Singapore. They're currently in the air. The official reason for that was given as a thigh injury. Now, both things can be true. Alexander Isak may well be nursing a thigh injury. He's certainly got a history of such issues, but it can also be true that he wants to explore that move away, and that's where we're at right now.
Alex Iwobi is not happy with Fulham's social media team. He's been told to stop making Snapchats in the dressing room.
They also said I might get fined if I continue to do so. They're trying to ban Snap in our change room, so yeah, that's why we're snapping BTS. It's a shame, man. I know you guys enjoy seeing what my teammates are like behind the scenes, but I have to respect the rules, boy. And undisputed world heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk's been ordered to fight Joseph Parker next. The WBO say both parties have 30 days to reach terms. Spencer Oliver thinks it might be Usyk's last fight.
That 45 minutes that you're in the ring, or the 36 minutes of fighting that you're in the ring, you look at that and go, yeah, that is difficult and it's grueling. But what you go through before that, trust me, with the early morning runs and the sparring and all that, that's
Good evening, this is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. I'm Olly Clink. I'm alongside DAZN's Chelsea correspondent Kweku Afari. He's fresh back from the States, from Chelsea becoming the world champions. We'll chat about that a bit later on this hour. We've been talking PSR and we're going to get the lowdown in just a moment from Kieran Maguire, football finance expert, football finance oracle, and we'll find out how Liverpool could afford Alexander Isak if that's the route they're going to go down. Arsenal fans, looks like you're getting Victor Gyökeres, or now Isak looks like he's available. Are you a bit gutted that this has happened now? Give us a call, 03717 22 3344, and we'll have the latest from talksport.com. This is Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. Get your texts in as well on 81089 when you've been heartbroken by a transfer. I'm a big Newcastle United fan. It's been a dark day. Yeah. It's been the darkest day since Yohan Gobai left for PSG in the January window back in 2014. That was a low day. Yeah. That was a very low day. We had a song saying "Don't sell Gobai," and then they sold him for 25 million. Won't forget it. We've got Tommy, the Forest fan, who said, I get close to tears now over Ryan Yates leaving the Garibaldi. Yeah, he was a club servant, wasn't he? Ryan Yates, that's a great shout. Keep those coming in, of course. But first, we've been talking a lot of PSR, of course. A lot of Newcastle fans blaming it, I think, for the situation with Isak potentially leaving, blaming it for the summer that they've had and the frustrations they've had trying to get players through the door. But also, we need to talk about Liverpool and the way that they have spent money in this window, and there's no better person to ask than Kieran Maguire, football finance expert. Kieran, how are you doing?
All good, thanks, Ollie. All good.
Good stuff. Yeah, probably a bit better than me, I can imagine, at the moment. My first question for you relates to Newcastle United and the wage issue, because I don't just think it has hamstrung them in the sense of offering Isak a new contract. I think it's really hamstrung them in their business throughout the summer and being unable to tie players down because other clubs in the Big Six have been able to offer them better wages. Where are Newcastle at the moment in terms of PSR and wages? What can they offer?
Well, I think Newcastle United are in a strong PSR position in the sense that they can certainly recruit. And the reason for that is that the first season under PIF has dropped out of their PSR equation. So they're under no pressure to sell. But I think you raised a valid point, Ollie. It sounds terrible. The average wage at Newcastle United is just under £100,000 a week, whereas Liverpool's is around about 150. So that means that there are the abilities at Liverpool to attract players in, and for Newcastle, they've not got as much wiggle room in terms of being able to offer more enhanced contracts. And also, I think from a player's point of view, if you're the highest paid player, does that set a benchmark for new players coming in as well? So it has a knock-on effect for Newcastle.
Kieran, that's what I was going to ask you about. What is the consequence of Newcastle paying Alexander Isak exactly what he wants? Of course, the knock-on effect of other players knocking on the door, but in terms of their PSR position, does that affect them going out to get other targets?
I don't think so. Remember, Newcastle have qualified for the Champions League next season. They have new shirt sponsors over the last couple of seasons, which has really rocketed their sponsorship income. They've got the new shirt deal with Adidas as well, and the shirts are flying off the shelves. So there's lots of positives with Newcastle. I think we're all assuming that this is a pure money issue. I'm not necessarily convinced that is the case. When you talk to players, they are ambitious. And remember, Liverpool have just won the Premier League. They will be in a very strong position as far as the Champions League is concerned as well. And you talk to many players, they say, as I look back on my career, what have I got on the table in terms of trophies? Now, Isak now has the Carabao Cup, and that was a great day for the city of Newcastle, but perhaps he wants to win some of the bigger trophies. He will be ambitious. So money is a factor, but it's not the only factor. You also look at the calibre of the players he would be alongside at Liverpool, and that would be very attractive.
Yeah, you talked about shirt sales there, by the way. Mine genuinely arrived today, my new shirt. Luckily, it doesn't have Isak 14 on the back. That's quite fortunate, really. Kieran, you talk about obviously Newcastle being in quite a strong position PSR-wise. Have you been surprised then at the way that their window has gone, with only one major signing through the door? They've had a couple of departures as well. Were you expecting more of a splash from Newcastle United? And has the reason why they haven't had that been the targets they've tried to chase down?
Well, I think Newcastle are now, they're fishing in a different pond to where they were 4 or 5 years ago. And therefore getting deals across the line is that much more difficult. If I'm honest, the two best potential signings for Newcastle this summer would probably have been Bruno and Isak both signing new contracts and tying them down and showing their commitment to the club for another 2 or 3 years on top of the existing contracts. So it could be that those negotiations were taking place. Perhaps Newcastle felt that some progress was being made, and therefore that was their focus. Now it looks like things have changed. I think we could certainly see Newcastle go out into the transfer market, and they would be in a very strong position to recruit, even though, from their perspective, their main aim would have been to have kept the best talent that they currently have.
Sorry to bring it back to Alexander Isak, but I know in recent years we've seen the average transfer fee for a player go up, but in terms of those top-end transfers, the era of Eden Hazard going for 100+ million, the Coutinho, a Griezmann, we haven't really seen much of that in recent seasons. Is there an argument to be made that if Newcastle can fetch £150 million for a player that has suffered of injuries, that's a very good deal considering the player does want to leave the football club?
Yes, I think the era of the 100 million plus transfer, it's probably been mixed. We've seen Jack Grealish probably one good season in 4 at Manchester City. You mentioned Eden Hazard. You look at Coutinho as well. You look at Dembele. You look at Griezmann, all going to Barcelona for more than 100 million. And how many of those were a success? So there is a view for saying, if you've got a player who does want to go, you can maximise the price. If you take a look at what Liverpool did when they sold Coutinho, they signed Alisson, they signed Van Dijk with the Coutinho money, and that made them such a stronger team. So yes, it will be frustrating for Newcastle United fans should Isak go, but it isn't necessarily a bad thing if they spend that money well and they strengthen the spine of the team, and clearly they would be looking to enhance themselves in the forward line.
Now, obviously, Kieran, the other player in this conversation has been Liverpool, who have already had quite the window, haven't they? They've brought in Florian Wirtz, they've brought in Frimpong, they've brought in all sorts of talent for big money. So much so that some people have looked at this and the availability of Isak and gone, well, surely Liverpool can't splash even more cash on him, can they?
No, Liverpool are in an incredibly strong position, and the reason for that, Ollie, is twofold. First of all, in terms of the money coming in at Anfield, they now have an expanded stadium, and the new tickets and the new seats that are available are going to the hospitality, going to the corporate fans, and the yield there tends to be very high. They've got the new shirt deal, which comes in on the 1st of August with Adidas. That's going to be a substantial increase. They are incredibly popular with sponsors, and sponsors will have paid bonuses for them winning the Premier League. So all of those are positives in terms of the money coming in. If you look at the players that have gone, Trent's gone, he was on a very high wage. Quanza's gone, that will be pure profit. So they're actually in a strong position. And then I've got the figures in front of me in terms of spending, and of the big six, or the old school big six, shall we say, Liverpool were sixth in the position over the course of the last 3 to 4 years. So they'd actually been keeping their powder dry relatively to the other clubs. They spent £1 billion less than Chelsea during that period. So they're actually in a position to spend now, because they've been quite cautious in the last couple of windows.
They've saved up their pocket money, haven't they? And it's, well, it could pay off, couldn't it? Kieran, thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed for coming on.
Thank you.
There we go, Kieran Maguire, football finance expert, and yeah, there's nothing that he doesn't know. I was waiting for you to bring up the term market opportunities again.
Oh no, I can't.
With Kieran, he had his spreadsheet in front
myself
of him. Yeah,
for using.
Do you use the term? Like, do you say circle back as well and stuff like that? Do you?
When I used to work in sales, yes. But it's interesting what you're saying about Liverpool, because I think that's the biggest question when we heard this news today, and we were talking about the potential landing spots. And Liverpool came up as maybe the favourites to sign under Isak. The question arose: how are they going about this? How can they afford this? But as a result of keeping their powder dry, as a result of maybe missing out on Caicedo a couple of seasons ago, when they showed their hand, they showed they had 110 mil, and Chelsea beat them to the punch and signed Caicedo. They've now got an incredibly strong position where they can sign one of the best strikers in the world, as well as Wirtz, as well as Frimpong, Kerkez, Ekitike. It's looking like a dynasty building here at Liverpool.
Yeah, Lavia as well, I believe they were in for. So, maybe missing out on those transfers has worked out for them. Maybe that similar logic could be applied for Newcastle this season. I'm trying to cling on to anything here, is what I'm doing, Kweku.
I think you're struggling for positives today, mate.
We've had some text about when you've been heartbroken with your club, maybe when a player's left. I'm absolutely heartbroken today with the news about Isak exploring other opportunities. Rich, a Chelsea fan, he's picked out a moment, I think, instead. He's gone for seeing Super Frank in a City shirt scoring that clutch winner has to be the most heartbreaking moment of my life, and I love this. As much as I love him and his service, I still haven't forgiven that blip in his amazing career.
Honestly, that was... football sometimes is inevitable. We all knew what was going to happen, and the way you scored, it was such a Frank Lampard goal, and the kind of apology and putting his hands up, it was, I hated it. I absolutely hated that moment. And again, the move didn't hurt so much because he was towards the back end of his career, but seeing him in the City shirt scoring against Chelsea, was not a big fan of that.
Keep those coming in on 81089, and keep your calls coming in too. 03717 22 33 44. Tell you what, if you're a Liverpool fan listening to Kieran there, the excitement goes through the roof, doesn't it?
Mate, you're a kid in the candy shop.
The excitement doesn't go through it goes through the roof, doesn't it?
It's a ridiculous position to be in right now, and a club that has been lambasted for not spending money, and FSG have been criticised for maybe pinching when it comes to spending money on top players. This could be an absolutely historic transfer window where they get every single one of their targets, and all those targets are world-class players.
And in just a moment here on talkSPORT, we're going to be chatting about some of the other stories around today. We'll talk about some targets for Newcastle, potential Isak replacements. We'll talk about some even more players that Chelsea want to sign. Even me and you are going to sign for Chelsea, I think, by the end of the window. This is Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, 18+, gambleaware.org. And next up, we will be playing Flames or Freezing. They're just trolling me now, aren't they?
Honestly,
trolling me now.
Honestly, sometimes you just have to allow yourself to feel, right? And don't be upset that it's finished. Be happy that it happened.
Oh.
He's been great, Ollie.
Yeah,
he's been great. And you've seen some great number 9s at Newcastle. Andy Cole was a terrific number 9.
Yeah,
Alan Shearer was absolutely brilliant, took you down. And Alexander Isak is just, he's followed the trend of great front men at Newcastle. But sometimes it is time to go.
I just thought times had changed, Kweku. I thought times had changed. He hasn't left yet, has he?
No,
never know. Never know. You do know. Ryan's a Newcastle fan, by the way. He's text 81089. Yeah, he says, I think Newcastle should let Isak go, but not to Liverpool. Get as close to 150 million as possible, and then use the money from Isak and Longstaff for Sesko, Wissa, and Gahey. 3 players they have been linked with. I'll tell you what, Kweku, I'm gonna let's pin that. I'm gonna come back to that with you because I want to chat to you about Sesko. And we've been talking about when you've been heartbroken, when a player has left or a manager has left. Craig in Birmingham says the person who broke my heart was when Nuno left Wolves. He did a good job there, didn't he?
A very good job. And the way he treated the Spurs as well, 10 games, got the sack.
Yeah.
And he's shown last season that he's a very top manager.
Oh, yeah, big time. We'll chat some more transfers in just a moment. But first, it's the World Match Play Darts tonight at Winter Gardens. Paul Nicholson will be watching for talkSPORT. Paul.
Hi Ollie, how's it going? Yes, first game of the quarterfinals is just getting underway right now. Van Veen of the Netherlands currently 3 legs to 1 up. James Wade has been broken a couple of times in the first mini session of this contest, but he has broken back in the 4th leg. He could have been 4-0 down, but as it stands, Jan van Veen of the Netherlands currently sitting on 84 in the 5th leg. He's looking to double 12 for a 4-1 lead at the break, and that's exactly what he gets. 3 breaks of throw in the first 5 legs, and James Wade is on the stage feeling very bereft, feeling a little bit like Newcastle fans today.
You're bang on, Paul. I heard Paul on Drive earlier and he sounded exactly like me, just heartbroken, really. Yeah, I understand that. He's distracted himself with the darts, though. He's fine.
It's a good distraction.
Fine, Paul. Yeah, it's a great distraction. It's live over on talkSPORT 2 as well, with commentary from Ian Danza. Right, now it's time for this.
Quick fire! Flames or freezing?
Yeah, this is Flames or Freezing, where Kweku and I take a look at some of the day's hottest transfer stories and decide if we're going to pour some cold water on them. Right, Kweku, you ready?
I'm
First
ready.
one, Flames or Freezing. Would it be Flames or Freezing? That's great, isn't it? I said I was being trolled by the producer, right? First one, Alexander Isak to leave Newcastle for Liverpool. Would that be Flames or Freezing?
That's flames. That's pure flames.
Flames.
That's pure flames. Alexander Isak is one of the best strikers in the world. Liverpool are one of the best teams in the world. The rich get richer, and if Liverpool can secure the signing of Alexander Isak, then they are clearly the favourites for Premier League next season, as well as all the other trophies.
I'm going freezing. It's going to flop there, isn't he? It's going to flop there.
You don't believe that?
I don't believe that at all. Would it be flames or freezing then, Kweku? For Arsenal, this is interesting. For Arsenal to agree a £64 million deal to sign Sporting striker Victor Gyökeres.
Flames. It's a necessity. Sounds like you're doing that voice. It's a necessity, right? Arsenal need a striker for a little while. We've all known that. I still question Gyökeres in terms of, has he got the nuance to cut it in Premier League when you don't have that much time, that much space? But for a man that scored this many goals over the last couple of seasons in the Portuguese league, you've got to say it's flames. And for Arsenal fans' point of view, they're hoping he hits the ground running and scores a lot of goals to help them win the league.
Yeah, but do you even think there are some Arsenal fans who are thinking, yeah, this is an unbelievable transfer when it was happening, and then they realise that actually Alexander Isak could be for sale this summer, and then they look at it and go, wish we'd held out a little bit longer?
Arsenal fans have to be honest with themselves, right? Going into this summer, the tier list of strikers that they wanted. Number 1, top of the list, Alexander Isak. Number 2, Sesko. And number 3 was Gyökeres. They've got their third option. They're happy they've got an option through the door. It's a decent fee as well. But I think that Arsenal fans would have probably preferred either Isak or Sesko. So
what would Isak have preferred as well? I mean, if you go to either of those clubs, you're going to be the leading number 9, and Liverpool have just won the league.
Well, Isak wears number 14, right?
No, not for that reason, though.
Okay.
I've dealt with all of those for so long. I've been saying he's not for sale for so long, Kweku.
For me, I felt like the cleaner fit was Arsenal. His ability to come out wide and drift into the middle, and his ability to just kind of dribble with the ball, I think that suited what Arsenal needed in their striker, as opposed to Gyökeres, who's a bit more of a battering ram, does do the hard yards on the run in and occupy defenders, but I thought that Isak's deftness would have fitted Arsenal more, but looks like he's going to Liverpool, and Arsenal look like they're signing Gyökeres.
Give us a call on that, actually, Arsenal fans. 03717 22 3344. Is there a small part of you that's actually thinking, I wish we'd held out a bit? Maybe you're thinking, let's get rid of this deal, let's go for Isak, or even maybe get them both. You never know with the way this window's gone, seriously. Right, next up, would it be flames or freezing, Kweku, for Ollie Watkins to leave Aston Villa for Manchester United?
From his point of view, freezing. Manchester United are, how can I put this politely, a mess. They're an absolute mess. They're a side that I can't really see the direction. I believed in Ruben Amorim when they first brought him in. I think he's not been helped by the way that Manchester United have conducted business in this transfer window. There's not been enough outgoings. I think that Ollie Watkins has got a good thing going at Aston Villa. For a long time, he had to battle with John Duran. He's out the door. I know that Villa maybe had a disappointing end to the season, didn't qualify for the Champions League, but he's basically a Villa legend, right? There's not. I think he's their all-time top goal scorer in the Premier League.
He is, yeah.
And I think he's got a good thing going on. The manager knows how to use him. I think, when's the last time Manchester United signed a player and that player signed up to
But if you are Watkins, though, you are joining this new front three. You've got Mbeumo, you've got Cunha next to you. You know, as much as I know what you're saying about the fact that Man United finished 15th, especially that front line, it would be a completely different look.
I understand that. Better strikers than Ollie Watkins have joined Manchester United and failed. It's not necessarily the system. It's not necessarily the manager. It's the club. 4:30 every Sunday, Manchester United on TV, whether it's Gary Neville, Paul Scholes, Roy Keane, the pundits are talking to you. It's a different kettle of fish playing for Manchester United. And from my point of view, Ollie Watkins, where he is at in his career right now, is probably better served staying at Aston Villa, where he knows how the club works, as opposed to Manchester United, where it's very difficult to establish yourself.
It's your job. Would it be flames or freezing then, Kweku? Chelsea, looking to add 2 Dutch players to their squad in Ajax's Joel Hato and RB Leipzig's Xavi Simons. What do you make of this? Flames or freezing?
There's not a lukewarm option. No. I'll go
lukewarm.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Production, that is.
That's amazing.
I really like the profile of both players. Hato's only 19. He's a left-sided centre back. He's not dominant in the air. and I want an aerially dominant centre-back at Chelsea, somebody who's maybe 25, 26, similar to a Van Dijk profile when he signed for Liverpool, and Hato's not that. So for me, I think he's a great profile player, and for 2 or 3 years' time, he'll be a world-class centre-back, but right now, he doesn't help us win the Premier League. And in terms of Xavi Simons, an incredibly talented player, I'd just be interested to see where he starts for Chelsea.
Yeah, I like the idea of Simons coming in. I've got to say, I know it's another. People look at that and go, "Oh, it's yet another attack of Chelsea," but they are looking to sell Christopher Nkunku. So it kind of does make a bit more sense than maybe it seems on the surface potentially. So you're going what? Lukewarm, is it? Lukewarm. It sounds like the X Factor guy, doesn't it?
It does sound like the X Factor guy.
And he sounds like an X Factor contestant. Lukewarm.
The over 25s.
With the over 25s, 100% goes out in the first round of the live shows. Has a big glow and then goes out in the first round.
How depressing is it? The over 25s was the old category.
I was thinking that the other day. I would be 4 years into that. It's ridiculous, isn't it? I look a lot younger though. It's fine. It's all good. Yeah. Cheers. Oh, thanks, mate. Now, Kweku, would it be flames or freezing? We've been talking about this. We've been teasing this. Newcastle interested in signing a man we talked about a lot this summer, Benjamin Sesko. Actually, talkSPORT were first to this story. My colleagues Alex Crook and Ben Jacobs, alerted us to this first. That Sesko is a target for Newcastle. He's a player that Eddie Howe very much likes. At the moment, financially, it looks pretty difficult, as it has for most of Newcastle's deals this summer. But if they were to get Sesko through the door, they lose Isak, but they also keep. Obviously they've signed a Langer, and they maybe get Johan Wissa. There's talks going on between Newcastle and Brentford over that transfer as well, and maybe get, I don't know, a goalkeeper and a defender. Right? Is that a disaster of a window?
No, it's not. I'm going Flames if you sign Sesko. I'm going Flames. I think that where he's at in his career is similar to where Isak was when you signed him. Just on the precipice. Hadn't yet had that breakout goal scoring season, but you'd see all the talent, you see all the ability, and maybe needs that platform to really show what he's got. And again, not to diminish Newcastle, but when you're talking about like the biggest clubs in the world, Newcastle aren't that just yet. And so maybe it's an opportunity to go to a club that has got Champions League football, but hasn't got the expectations of winning the Champions League, and go and establish yourself similar to what Alexander Isak did. And we don't know. In 2 or 3 years' time, we might be talking about one of the best strikers in the world, because for the longest time, people who watch him play and seen him play and seen him develop say he's got all the potential to become one of the leading marksmen in world football. Yeah,
it's hard to think about right now, but I do think I think if they got that deal over the line, it very much softens the blow. If Sesko does arrive at Newcastle United, he's someone Arsenal chased throughout the summer. In fact, they were in talks. Obviously, they were kind of playing between getting Gyökeres or Sesko. It seems like they've gone for Gyökeres at this moment in time. But he's highly rated, isn't he? And if Newcastle could get that over the line, like I say, it would soften the blow. Nowhere near, obviously, as proven as Alexander Isak is. But at least they would be replacing him, because at the moment, heading into the new season, a Premier League season, a Champions League season, our only senior number 9, if Isak goes, is William Asula. And that is a serious, serious worry. So they need to sort that out in the rest of this window. By the way, we've been asking you to text 81089 when you've been heartbroken by a transfer, maybe a manager leaving. Stephen, the Huddersfield fan, says, when Frank Worthington left town, I rang his mum up to beg him not to go. Stephen, seriously, if that is true, please give us a call and tell us the story. That's amazing.
That's incredible.
That's incredible. 03717223344, Stephen. And come on and tell that story, because I have to know what you were saying. How did you even get that number?
Yeah, you got Isak's parents on speed dial, no?
Yeah, sadly not. Yeah, I did try and DM him earlier, but I didn't. Don't worry.
I think there's a lot of Newcastle fans that are hoping maybe their message seeps through and he sees it and he changes his mind and decides to stay at the club because Steve asked him to.
I've only sent 6 in a row, mate, so it's all good, really. This is Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT with me, Olly Clink, alongside Kweku, Afari. Plenty more transfer chat coming next, and also we'll be paying tribute after the sad death of wrestling legend Hulk Hogan in just a moment here on talkSPORT.
like to thank Mr. Bob Backlund and the WWF for bringing the Hulkster back. But like they said, this is a different Hulk Hogan, and Hulkamania's already running wild. You know, the Pythons are ready, the largest arms in the world.
Hogan trying to set up the boss man for, could it be a suplex? Yes, you can't believe it. I've never seen a suplex off the top of the cage before.
Yeah, some very sad news reaching us today on talkSPORT. Terry Bollea, recognised globally as legendary WWE Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan, has passed away, aged 71. He helped WWE achieve global recognition with the Hulkmania craze in the 1980s, and he reignited sports entertainment's popularity in the 1990s 2. I mean, Kweku, I know that you're a big wrestling fan, and you know he really does obviously go down as one of the biggest legends, doesn't he?
Yeah, when you're talking about wrestling Mount Rushmores or men or women that carry the industry, Hulk Hogan is one of those. And he's, when you think about wrestling and all the craziness that is wrestling, Hulk Hogan embodies that, and he was an icon for multiple decades. And I think the most for Hulk Hogan, he was obviously, the 80s was the era that he dominated and was the face of WWF. But in the mid-90s, he kind of, his gimmick wore thin. The say your prayers and eat your vitamins. He had to reinvent himself by going to WCW. And the NWO is one of the most influential factions of all time, and arguably made wrestling cool and helped drive wrestling into the mainstream, and was the precursor to the Attitude Era, even though that was in a different organisation. And Hulk Hogan found a way to reinvent himself and connect with audiences throughout his career. And obviously it's tragic news that he's passed away, because he's so influential. And like I say, when you talk about wrestling Mount Rushmores, Hulk Hogan is firmly on that.
Yeah, it has to be. He's kind of one of those names that when you think of wrestling, even if it isn't a sport you follow, you think of Hulk Hogan. Earlier on Drive on talkSPORT, they spoke to former WWE commentator Todd Grisham, who gave this tribute.
You know, he was kind of at least in my life, kind of like the first superhero come to life. You know, you could watch the Batman movies, the Batman cartoons, the Superman comic books, but this was a guy you could go watch and you could see, and he was always defying the odds. The irresistible force meets the immovable object. I mean, the guy that body slammed Andre the Giant, he could do things that no mortal man could do. And, you know, he always had that positive message, you know, say your prayers and take your vitamins. How could anybody be against those two things? So he was just such a big part of our childhood.
Yeah, I mean, what would be a standout moment for you, Kweku?
For me, it's WrestleMania X8 versus The Rock, icon versus icon. This is a Hulk Hogan that was way past his physical prime, but the electricity of that match, the fact that you see these two icons face off, the crowd were electric, and just seeing Hulk Hogan and The Rock face off and have an incredible match at the biggest stage, or on the biggest stage, is definitely the definitive moment, or kind of iconic moment in his career. He's an absolute legend, and the thread that runs through the mainstays of the company goes from Hulk Hogan through to The Rock and Stone Cold, through to John Cena, through to Roman Reigns in the modern era. And Hulk Hogan really the start of wrestling blowing up in the mainstream, and he will be sorely missed.
Absolutely, yeah. Hulk Hogan, who's passed away at the age of 71. Now, before the break, we were talking about some of the other stories, weren't we, Kweku? We were talking about Arsenal and the situation they now find themselves in. The fact that they look like they're bringing in Victor Gyökeres. They've been chasing a number 9 for what feels like forever. And Isak's been top of that list for a very long time. Now it looks like he's available, but that deal for Gyökeres is edging ever closer. I just wanted to hear from some Arsenal fans about how they felt about it. Gary has called us. Gary's an Arsenal fan. Gary, how do you feel about this situation?
Well, let's look at it realistically instead of looking at it media-wise, and look at the facts. Let's have a look at, let's say about Sesko. He's a young kid, he's a project. Arsenal don't need a project. They need a ready-made striker. Also, looking at the Isak thing, why would we want to buy another Jesus who's injury-prone? He's only played 30 to 39 games in the last 2 seasons. And he came from the Spanish league, which I think may be just about above the Portuguese league. So we look at Gyökeres, who scored more goals for Sweden than Isak. He scored more goals in the league in the last 2 years than Isak. People are saying, will he fit in? Will any player fit in? We've had many a better player come from better leagues who haven't fit in. People didn't say it about Haaland. They haven't said it about sort of like that before he came here, things like that. So I think Arsenal have done a good deal. They've bought a player that's up and running, strong, into the league. He's up and running at the moment, which Arsenal need, and he's not injury prone. I think he's missed 3 games in 3 seasons.
Yeah, Gary, I hear everything you're saying, mate. I hear everything you're saying, but would you have said this if you were the team that were in pole position to sign Isak? I think all Arsenal fans, if you're being honest with yourselves, before this transfer window opened, Isak looked like the priority, and Gyökeres looked like he was destined to maybe reignite his relationship with Ruben Amorim at Manchester United. Obviously, things have turned in a different way, and it looks like Isak possibly is going to Liverpool. But I think most Arsenal fans would have had him top of their priority list, maybe in January and maybe at the start of the summer, no?
What would have happened?
I feel like we lost Gary a bit there.
We did.
A bit garbled Gary there, I think, at the start of that point.
But I do think we'll try and get Gary back. I do think that if you look at Alexander Isak, out of those 3 strikers that Arsenal were linked with, Sesko and Gyökeres and Isak, I think that Isak is the more proven commodity. He scored goals. He scored 20 Premier League goals in the last 2 seasons.
Gary, you back?
He's been in the Premiership. Gyökeres hasn't.
I understand that. But Gyökeres is a player that has done it in the Portuguese league. But if we look at some players who have scored goals in that league, look at Darwin Núñez. I know that Jackson Martinez didn't come to the Premier League, but we've seen players score a lot of goals in Portugal and it hasn't necessarily translated to the Premier League.
What like Ronaldo? Like when quality players like Neves. Portugal won trophies recently as a country.
Yeah.
And clubs. So what about Wolves? They sort of turned Wolves into a great side.
Yeah.
Great side.
Yeah.
I think more Portuguese players have made it in our league than Spanish players, haven't they?
Yeah.
Well, I hear that, and again, no transfer is guaranteed. We have to wait and see if Gyökeres is the man to lead Arsenal to the title. But that's the burden, that's the pressure that he comes with, right? Like I think out of all the players that have signed for multiple clubs in the Premier League, he has the most pressure because the goal is simple for Arsenal: it's win the title or bust. And if you're telling me that he's the man to lead you to the title, then fair enough. But I have to wait and see because again, when he was rotting on the bench for Swansea in the Championship 3 or 4 years ago, none of us would have saw this, and we have to give him credit for the progress and the progression he's made in his career. But I don't think he's a guarantee to be a success in the Premier League because we've seen examples of players coming from that league and not be a success.
I agree with you, but also players mature at different ages. Great players come here over the years. I remember Ace and Shevchenko coming here with an unprecedented amount of goals. Stunk the place out of Chelsea. Every single transfer you make, look at the strikers Spurs bought over the years that have come with absolute CVs. That people they were going to win the league, they were going to rip it up with this striker, that striker. We're still waiting.
You had to get that in, didn't you, Gary?
Yeah,
you had to get that in about Spurs. Love it. Gary, great call there. 0371 722 3344. He's positive, isn't he, actually? And he's looking at this as, right, no, we've got our man. Let's crack on with it. Maybe in a different world we might have waited. We might have got Isak. And you know what? What could have happened from an Arsenal perspective? We've already kind of touched on this, but what might have happened is they hold out. They kind of test the water with Isak throughout this summer. They don't get a number 9. The fans get increasingly frustrated, which they already were getting, and understandably because it's been so long. And then it comes to it, and Liverpool take Isak, and Arsenal are left without a striker at the start of the season. So in that sense, you can understand it.
No, I do understand it. And again, this is not me criticising the signing. I just think my preference would have been an Isak or a Sesko. And I think when you look at Sesko, he reminds me of Isak before he joined Newcastle. A player that was young, a player that had a lot of potential, but a player that we all saw could take the step up and reach that next level. We look at Gyökeres, he's a little bit older. He has played in England before, but in the Championship, he has scored goals in the Championship. I just don't know if he's a guarantee for goals. Maybe he comes in and tears the league up. And for Arsenal fans' point of view, you're right to be optimistic. I'm just, from my point of view, I think there's other strikers that I would have taken at my football club over Gyökeres.
We've got an Arsenal fan who's text 81089 says Isak would have been first choice, but he's over double what we've paid for Gyökeres. I'd rather have Gyökeres, who will score goals, and have some money left over for 1 or 2 more high quality players. Yes, good point, to be fair. And with that injury record that Gary mentioned, I don't think it's as bad as he was maybe making out, but there is that risk there, especially when you're spending that much money on one player. This is Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT with me, Olly, Clink. I'm alongside Kweku, Afari. We're with Ladbrokes, 18+, gambleaware.org.
nothing more to say. No more race to play. The winner takes it all. The loser standing small.
This is just taking the mickey now, isn't it?
It is.
Do you know why? This is twofold. The winner takes it all, the loser standing small, and it's ABBA.
Yeah.
So Swedish. I'll give it to him. He's on fire tonight, producer Tony.
But the irony is, you beat them in the League Cup final. You beat Liverpool. You slayed the Dragon. So how much are they winners? Are they winners?
They weren't that day.
They weren't
that day.
A great day.
What a day. Do you know what the funny thing is? I was so lucky to be at Wembley for that, right? But I missed that iconic celebration because I was about 4 rows in front, absolutely buried in some Geordie bodies, basically. So,
limbs.
Yeah, it was incredible. Thanks for that, Alex. Don't go. Anyway, let's get a quick update from the darts. It's the World Match Play at Winter Gardens. Paul Nicholson's there for talkSPORT.
Yeah, first quarter final, Ollie, is very much underway, and James Wade has just won the last leg of the third session. He's been on a bit of a rampage since you last came to us here in Blackpool, because at 4-1, Gian van Veen was looking very, very good after 5 legs. But since then, James Wade went on the rampage with 8 legs in a row, with a great deal of breaking happening there, and he's just won that last leg of the third session, and he is very much in command at 10-5 up. We're live on talkSPORT 2 right now with Chris Mason, Andy and Dana, and we're also live on the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel.
There we go, Geordie Paul Nicholson, who is as heartbroken as me tonight. Now it's time for this.
Read all about it. talkSPORT.com on the Transfer Insiders.
Yeah, it's time to look at today's top stories from talkSPORT.com. Delighted to say that from talkSPORT.com, joining us now is Alex Conrad. How you doing, Alex? You all right?
Doing well, Ollie. How about you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. It's Alex's debut. He's brought a fresh accent as well, all the way from Sydney.
I have indeed, yes.
I'm going to Australia at the end of the year.
Lucky man, but I hope it's a forgettable visit, and I hope Australia retains the Ashes.
It's been great to have you, Alex. Thanks for joining us this evening. Right, what have you got for us in terms of stories from talkSPORT.com?
Well, Ollie, unfortunately, the top trending story is going to come as no surprise to you and to all our listeners. It's that Alexander Isak has told Newcastle he would like to explore a move away. I think the 3 blind mice could have seen through Newcastle's statement this morning that he was going to miss the pre-season trip due to a thigh issue. And ever since then, it's sort of snowballed from there. Isak hasn't submitted an official transfer request as of yet, but it could be, a case of, when rather than if at this stage. But one thing that talkSPORT does understand is that Newcastle's hand, if it's forced, that Isak really does push the move, is that they prefer to sell to a Saudi club rather than a Premier League rival, which will no doubt be music to Al Hilal's ears, because they are one of the clubs in the Isak sweepstakes, along with Liverpool, who are have sort of generated all the headlines last week when the news broke about their interest in Isak.
Yeah, it's funny, just on the not a formal transfer request, it's a bit like, they haven't read my message yet. It genuinely does feel a bit like that. But yeah, in terms of the Saudi thing, obviously as a Newcastle fan, it's the option I want, let's be honest. You don't want him going to one of your Premier League rivals, but in terms of Isak and the best for his career and dare I say it, for the good of football, I'd rather at least he stayed on the continent. It hurts to see him at a Premier League rival, but for the good of football, you do want to see that, and for his career.
I agree. I think that he's one of the best strikers in the world, one of the best players in the world. And from Newcastle's point of view, the Saudi interest helps to hike up the price. How realistic that is, it remains to be seen. I don't think Alexander Isak doesn't strike me as the type of player that's willing to throw his career away just yet, even though the financial gain from going to Saudi Arabia is massive. And I do think he ends up at a Premier League club or one of the biggest clubs in Europe, just because he is that talented. And I just don't see a world in which he stays at Newcastle. Now this has happened, I know there's not been a formal transfer request, but not going to the pre-season tours is as good as handing the transfer request, right? He's made it very, very clear that he wants to explore other options, and I think those options will be explored, and I think we'll see him playing for a different team come the new season.
Now, Alex, I believe you can soften the blow a bit for Newcastle fans, because another story trending at the moment is about some potential replacements for Isak for Newcastle.
Yes, because if Isak goes, it's expected to fetch a mammoth transfer fee. Newcastle are hoping a British transfer record, which is going to be about potentially £150 million, and that's going to be able to give Newcastle the funds to go after some seriously talented replacements. So Those include Johan Visser and then the RB Leipzig duo, Lewis Openda and Benjamin Sesko. Now, obviously, none of them are going to come cheap. Sesko was heavily linked with Arsenal, but they've since moved on to Viktor Gyökeres, and that signing is going to be probably finalised in the next coming days. Newcastle have already come in for Visser with a £25 million bid, but that was rejected. Brentford are still hoping for 40 million, even though Visser has 1 year left in his contract. But Sesko is probably the big name there. Very talented, 22 years of age, which would be the exact same age that Isak was when he signed for Newcastle. So you've got a young talent there who's got plenty of potential. And Openda's a bit of a smoky. I think not many people. He wouldn't be on many people's radars.
No, I've loved him ever since I googled him about 10 minutes ago. He's a great player. Yeah, 9 goals in the Bundesliga last season, of course, for Leipzig. No, I mean, obviously he's highly rated at Openda, but you're right. It's not exactly the name on the list. A bit like Sesko would be. Johan Visser, by the way, got a quiz for you, Kweku. Who scored more goals from open play last season in the Premier League? Johan Visser or Alexander Isak?
Oh, I'm going to go Visser.
It was Wissack, correct.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with it. Johan Wissack. I'm going to name him, I think.
No, but from your point of view, he's a player that scored a lot of goals, as did Mbeumo for Brentford last season. I know he's maybe a little bit less attractive than Mbeumo because he's a bit older. But, I mean, if you can get him in, a player that scored, 20 Premier League goals last season?
19, I think
19 last season. If you can get him in for less than 40 mil, that seems like a bit of a steal. A guarantee to give you goals in the Premier League. And I think that's what we've seen from a lot of top teams, right? Go for proven commodities in the Premier League because you need to get off and running. You can't wait for a player to settle into the league. And I think the Visser would be a great signing for Newcastle.
When you think about the fact that we talked earlier about Ollie Watkins potentially going to Manchester United, and I think the fee that Villa would hold out for would be about, 60 million? I think that's what they quoted Arsenal anyway last January.
Yeah.
And Watkins is older than Visser.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Visser, like you said, scored 19 Premier League goals last season. As much as on paper you look at it like 28-year-old, Brentford holding out for 40, so they'll probably meet a bit below that, you'd imagine. I agree with you, Craig. I do think it's good business, and also consider the fact that Visser doesn't just play as a 9; he can also play across that front three. When you're in a season in the Champions League, as Newcastle know very well, you need players who can cover different positions, and that's something that the Visser would represent. So yeah, if they can get that over the line, obviously there's the big blow of Isak leaving, but as long as Newcastle can do some business and potentially bring in a Visser and a Sesko, I don't think it can just be one or the other, to be honest with you, because they've lost Wilson as well. They need to bring in 2 forwards now if Isak does eventually leave the club. So yeah, we'll see how it all plays out, but at least it's a bit of encouragement. Anything else for us, Alex?
Yes, we have Manchester United. Bit of Manchester United news for you. Earlier today, they made fresh contact with Aston Villa over Ollie Watkins. That's been a bit of a saga. The Man United are obviously in the market for a new number 9. Ruben Amorim's still looking to add to his front line, considering they spent over £130 million on Matheus Cunha and Brian Mbeumo now, but they still want more. Unfortunately for United, the Telegraph reported earlier that they have Villa issued them a hands-off approach on Watkins, which as a Villa fan, I'm delighted to hear that.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about this then as a Villa fan?
I think Ollie, now that he is the main guy, that Duran's left, Rashford's not coming back, Ollie's always performed very well when he knows he's the main man. When Danny Ings came into the club in 2021, they were sort of jostling for that starting position. Ollie wasn't really getting the consistency he likes. But under Unai Emery, he's really cemented himself as the starting number 9. And even when Rashford came in towards the end of last season and took over that starting role, Watkins got a little bit frustrated. He said that himself, that he had words with Emery, knocked on his door and said, like, hey, why am I not playing? But Watkins is a guy who scored 50 league goals, 29 assists in the last three league seasons. That for Villa is, I think, irreplaceable. Especially considering the money involved for strikers now and how few there are at that elite level.
Yeah. Why are you a Villa fan out of interest from Sydney?
Gosh, how much time do we have? You can thank Lee Hendry for that.
Oh, wow.
When I was, I think, about 5-6 years old, it was a Premier League highlight show, and the first game they showed was Villa v Everton, and Hendry must have been going through an absolute purple patch at the time, scored an absolute weldy from outside the box, and I was watching it, and
that was it?
That's my guy. That's my team. It's locked
amazing.
Away. So I'm glad Everton didn't score first, because otherwise it could have been
Oh my word, that's amazing.
From a Villa fan's point of view, though, do you worry that Watkins' nose has been put out of joint in terms of just like in big Champions League games last season, we saw Marcus Rashford start, a player that was on loan, and we all knew that he wasn't going to be at Villa long term. And Ollie Watkins is your all-time top goal scorer in the Premier League. He's ostensibly a Villa legend. The fact that he maybe struggled for minutes last season when Duran was there and then when Rashford was there, do you think that maybe the relationship between him and the club and him and Emery is soured a little bit?
I don't think it's unfair to say it's soured. I definitely don't think it's, smooth sailing. But again, I think obviously with the Champions League, even then, like Duran was the one who was getting the headlines for what he did against Bayern Munich, even against Leipzig. It's an interesting one, but I think as long as Watkins knows he's the number one guy, and we don't even have a backup striker yet either. We signed a teenager from Feyenoord who knows he's going to be in our 21s. So even I think as long as he knows, it's just that mentality of knowing he is the guy, the number 9 shirt, even though he wears number 11. As long as he knows he's the guy, I think Emery respects that. Obviously, the rumours linking Nicholas Jackson may be a bit interesting. Could be one to watch if that ramps up at all. But for now, I think it's okay. Fingers crossed it stays that way.
Yeah, just quickly, Alex, we mentioned Marcus Rashford there, and I believe there's a story doing the rounds. He just moved to Barcelona, but something went wrong in terms of his debut. Is that right?
Yes. So obviously, Marcus Rashford has signed for Barcelona on a year-long deal yesterday, with Barcelona having the option to make it permanent. Now, he was set to make his debut on July 27 against Japanese side Vissel Kobe, but unfortunately, that game has been cancelled due to contractual issues with the promoter. What that entails, we don't know. But it means now Rashford's debut is set to happen on July 31st against FC Seoul, where Manchester United fans will know Jesse Lingard plays.
Of course,
that means Rashford's debut could come against his former teammate.
Wow. Oh, that would be brilliant.
That would be good.
That would be brilliant. Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure. Where's a good night out in Sydney if I'm heading there?
In Sydney? Oh.
Going to have to celebrate the Ashes wins, aren't I? So where's good to go?
Great pub would be the Lord Dudley.
Cool.
In Wallara. Highly recommend.
Dudley as well. Yeah, near. So me, you, Lee Hendry, we'll all go out there. We'll have a great time. Looking forward to that.
Absolute dream.
Alex, thanks very much indeed. In just a moment here on talkSPORT, we're going to get all the latest on the transfer stories. Ben Jacobs, our man in the know, talkSPORT's transfer correspondent, is going to join us. We'll get the latest on that Watkins situation, as well as some other stories as well. This is talkSPORT.
Today we say goodbye to a legend of sports entertainment. Hulk Hogan has died. WWE commentator Todd Grisham tells us why Hulk Hogan's had such a lasting impact on popular culture outside wrestling.
You know, he was kind of, at least in my life, kind of like the first superhero come to life. You know, you could watch the Batman movies, the Batman cartoons, the Superman comic books, but this was a guy you to go watch, and you could see, and he was always defying the odds. The irresistible force meets the immovable object. I mean, the guy that body slammed Andre the Giant, he could do things that no mortal man could do. And, he always had that positive message, say your prayers and take your vitamins. How could anybody be against those two things?
Hulk Hogan, real name Terry Jean Bollea, had been recovering from surgeries. He was 71. Now, we understand Alexander Isak wants to leave Newcastle. The man who broke the story is the Daily Mail's chief football reporter, Craig Hope.
He's told the club he's keen to explore his options, and this is the situation we're at now. He hasn't travelled out here with the rest of the squad to Singapore. They're currently in the air. The official reason for that was given as a thigh injury. Now, both things can be true. Alexander Isak may well be nursing a thigh injury. He's certainly got a history of such issues, but it can also be true that he wants to explore that move away, and that's where we're at right now.
Alex Iwobi is not happy with Fulham's social media team. He's been told to stop making Snapchats in the dressing room.
They also said I might get fined if I continue to do so. They're trying to ban snap in our change room, so yeah, that's why I'm snapping BTS. It's a shame, man. I know you guys enjoy seeing what my teammates are like behind the scenes, but I have to respect the rules, boy.
And undisputed world heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk's been ordered to fight Joseph Parker next. The WBO say both parties have 30 days to reach terms. Spencer Oliver thinks it might be Usyk's last fight.
That 45 minutes that you're in the ring, or the 36 minutes of fighting that you're in the ring, you look at that and go, yeah, that is difficult and it's grueling. But what you go through before that, trust me, with the early morning runs and the sparring and all that, that's where the wear and tear is.
Good evening, this is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, Olly, Clink. I'm alongside DAZN's Chelsea correspondent, all-time great man, the jet setter at the moment. The man setting all the trends, Kweku Afari, is alongside me. talkSPORT's transfer correspondent, Ben Jacobs, is going to join the show in just a moment to give us all of the latest on transfers. Where could Isak be off to? Could Sesko join Newcastle? What's the latest with Yoane Wissa? We'll find out in just a moment. And, well, of course, we'll dig into that story about Isak a bit more. We'll talk about your Chelsea too, Kweku, in just a moment, as they are the world champions. This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. Craig, obviously I've been a bit down in the dumps about Isak leaving my club. And
have you?
Yeah, just a bit. I love this because you need those friends that kind of dig you out of that, and then they give you the hard truths.
Yeah.
Right. Damien is that man for me. He's text 81089. Don't waste your energy by being devastated about a player wanting to leave. Money talks, not loyalty. Cheers, Damien. Yeah. I'm not even thinking about him anymore. Don't even care.
The kids will call that cope.
Yeah. Right, it's time now to look at the latest football action with Ladbrokes.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Supercharge your odds with our odds boost button. Selected markets applies to first £50 of stake. Terms apply. 18+. Gambleaware.org.
We're joined by talkSPORT's transfer correspondent Ben Jacobs. Ben, very good evening to you.
Good evening. Well, not such good evening for you, given the Isak news, but good evening for me.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well, cheers, Ben. Yeah, great to have you on. Well, what is the latest with this then? Obviously it's a story that's developed throughout the day. At the start of the day, it was all to do with his thigh injury and not going for pre-season. But as it's gone on, obviously it's looking more and more like he's going to be eventually leaving the club. Where are we at now?
Yeah, I think there's two extremes where it cannot continue as is, even though Alexander Isak is well contracted. He's exploring options. He chose not to go on the pre-season tour. And yet it can also be true that he's got a thigh injury as well. But because the scan came back clear and was a precautionary measure, clearly if Alexander Isak wanted to fly, he could have done. So it's a combination of two things, a minor injury and Isak wanting to explore options, which at face value does point towards an exit, but it's a British transfer record fee exit. It certainly has complications. And from Liverpool's point of view, although it's anticipated that they may make another formal approach, there's a lot of things that have to fall into place, such as outgoings and still agreeing a fee with Newcastle United. And there is a scenario at the other extreme where all of this noise leads Newcastle into changing their perspective and breaking the bank to try and keep Isak on a new deal. And I think that's where we're at, with Liverpool being given encouragement, but at the other extreme, the possibility that Newcastle throw the kitchen sink at Isak to try and keep him. I don't think we're going to get a scenario where this just blows over. I don't think we're going to get a scenario where he just sees out his current deal for a little bit longer. There has to be a conclusion and some clarity, and now sooner rather than later. So Newcastle's not for sale stance is going to be tested, and it remains very possible that Liverpool enter the race even after signing Hugo Ekitike.
Ben, has this caught, of course, it seems like it's caught Newcastle by surprise, but it looks like it's caught potential suitors by surprise. Look at the business that Arsenal have already done. It looks like they're going to get Gyökeres over the line. Look at Chelsea, they've already brought in Liam Delap, they've already brought in João Pedro, and Liverpool themselves have already brought in Hugo Ekitike. It looks like it's caught a lot of these potential suitors for Isak by surprise. Is that the case?
I don't think it's caught Liverpool by surprise, because remember, before they formalised the deal for Hugo Ekitike, they made a formal inquiry to Newcastle United to kind of test the waters and indicated that they'd be prepared to make a British transfer record bid. And therefore, from Liverpool's perspective, they've either always felt like Isak might become available, or they're trying to read the market and doing so even before they committed to this Hugo Ekitike deal. But perhaps what's caught some by surprise at Newcastle is how willing Isak has been to go against what the club are looking for from him to start pre-season and to fly. And as a consequence, this isn't just about Newcastle saying not for sale. Doesn't matter if you don't sign a new deal, you're well contracted. It's now about Newcastle resolving it, because if they're to stick to their not for sale position, something has probably got to give between Newcastle and Isak to get everybody on the same page. And that includes getting on the same page financially as well. But from Newcastle's perspective, it's worth noting a year ago, they chose not to offer Isak a new deal. Had they done so, my understanding is he would have signed. Paul Mitchell decided it wasn't worth it at that point because he was already well paid, and a year ago had 4 years left on his contract. And now that might come back to bite Newcastle United. So Mitchell has gone, new people are going to be dealing with it. And let's see whether Newcastle change their wage structure to allow Isak this £300,000 a week. Alternatively, it will be a case of, if not, Isak pushing to leave, as he's informed Newcastle United. And then we obviously also have to understand whether this price is 120 million, 130 million, 150 million or more, because it's one thing Isak saying he wants to leave, but if Newcastle don't open the door to what suitors feel is a reasonable price, then no progress is going to be made. And that's why I think Liverpool at this stage are quite cautious about the situation. They're certainly not committing yet to bidding today, tomorrow. What they're doing is assessing the opportunity, understanding their own outgoings, and then if the window opens at the right price with the right time and the right squad space, then absolutely they'll move.
You mentioned outgoings. Is this deal predicated on Liverpool shifting Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz? Because we already talked about the outlay this summer already from Liverpool, bringing in the likes of Gyökeres, Frimpong, Wirtz for a record fee. Do they have to shift those two players, in Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz, to make this deal happen in terms of bringing Isak to Anfield?
I think financially Liverpool feel quite PSR compliant. They closed their financial year in May. Therefore, from the end of May onwards, they've effectively got this window, January, and potentially, if they were to extend their financial year for the next one, some of summer. So they don't have to necessarily bring in fees overnight. It's not a case of one out, one in. But when they're looking at their squad chemistry rather than PSR, there's definitely a feeling amongst sources that somebody will have to go. And then it gets interesting, because if it's Luis Diaz to Bayern, there's probably need to find a left winger, and that's not Alexander Isak. If it's Diaz and potentially Darwin Núñez, and there's Saudi interest there, I think Al Hilal could place a bid. There's a possibility that they move for Isak, but there might still be a hole for a left winger. So is there a scenario where actually it could be Isak plus a left winger? And that's what's being discussed at Liverpool at the moment. So I don't see them moving for any kind of attacker, to answer your question, unless one of Nunez and Diaz goes. And it might be the case that both of them have to go. But then you could get to the other scenario where if two leave, two come in as well. So Liverpool are going to have to really consider their next move. Financially, yes, even though they feel PSR compliant, but also more importantly, down to squad chemistry as well. So this is why I think the Isak situation may not move overnight, because first of all, Liverpool have to decide if they're going to U-turn on their not-for-sale stance for Luis Diaz, and Bayern are expected to place another bid in the region of 75 million euros. And then with Darwin Nunez, the challenge so far has just been about finding valuation, because Napoli tried miles below Liverpool's valuation. Saudi may bid, but Nunez has got to want to go there. Keep an eye on Al Hilal. And Liverpool's asking price for Darwin Nunez remains 70 million euros. So we'll have to see if anybody matches that valuation. But there's certainly a concrete possibility that both Nunez and Diaz go. And if that is the case, then obviously you would expect the door to be open for Liverpool to make a formal bid for Alexander Isak.
When you were talking about left wingers there, Ben, I was just waiting for you to say Anthony Gordon as well, and maybe a potential double
They're not going to double raid.
Oh, okay.
I can promise you that.
Okay, well, thanks, Ben. Thanks very much. I'm glad to hear it.
Wait, so you said like Anthony Gordon's the man that's been perpetually linked to Liverpool, allegedly a Liverpool fan. You can guarantee that deal's not going to happen, Anthony Gordon to Liverpool?
No, I can't guarantee that deal's not going to happen. I can guarantee that Newcastle won't sell Alexander Isak and Anthony Gordon, and therefore it would have to be one or the other from Liverpool's perspective. Okay. So if they only lost Diaz, they might decide to just go for a left winger. And then you're looking at Malik Fofana, or alternatively possibly going back in for Anthony Gordon, because the deal was very close 12 months ago when Newcastle had a tight PSR position. The only reason Gordon's not wearing a Liverpool shirt already is because Elliot Anderson went to Nottingham Forest and Yakubu Minter went to Brighton. Newcastle satisfied their PSR position. They pulled the plug on that deal. So Liverpool's interest in Gordon remains. It's not as active at this stage as has been in Alexander Isak, but it simply will not be the case that Newcastle allow exits of Gordon and Alexander Isak, which means if Liverpool have interest in both concurrently, they'll have to pick one or the other.
Ben, just finally on this deal, because I do want to ask you about a couple of other stories, but obviously there's also Saudi interest in Alexander Isak. There might be a few people who listen to that and go, hold on, we know who Newcastle's owners are. We know their considerable influence on the Saudi league. How does that work in terms of some of the Saudi clubs being interested in the services of Alexander Isak? Would it wash with the Premier League?
Well, Newcastle are not in a multi-club network, so yes, it's PIF and PIF, but it is also completely different people. That said, Yasser Al-Rumian's the chair of PIF and the chair of Newcastle, but in essence, if Saudi came calling through Al Hilal, it would be Fahad bin Nafel, the president of Al Hilal, who has no direct affiliation to PIF and is known to be quite a tough negotiator. It has to develop first, because what you have is a willingness from Saudi to prepare a bid, and that's normal, and sometimes it's grandstanding. And by the way, if the bid is big enough, it might help Newcastle, because if they reject it, it will inform the market valuation. So if he doesn't go to Saudi but they bid, PIF in informing a valuation could do Newcastle a favour in terms of trying to shut down the market. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a grandstanding bid, because this was the case when Kylian Mbappe fell out with PSG and they made a world record offer again from Saudi Arabia. It was turned down and it was miles more than they needed to bid, which probably shows you it was done for optics rather than with a genuine chance of success. Don't be surprised if we see a Saudi bid, but at the moment there's been no talks between Al Hilal and Alexander Isak, so it has a element of smoke without fire. And my understanding remains that Isak doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia. He wants to go and play Champions League football, earning a lot more money, and therefore he's open to Liverpool, but not necessarily Saudi Arabia. In terms of how it works, I just don't think there'll be direct conflict, because it's not Yasser Al-Rumian negotiating with Yasser Al-Rumian. It's Michael Emenalo on behalf of the central funding team and the Ministry of Sport, and Fahad bin Nafel, who is technically controlled by PIF, but is not directly a PIF employee.
Just very, very quickly, Ben, we know you've got an exclusive story about another, well, I was going to say another former Newcastle. He hasn't left yet, but Callum Wilson, you've got an exclusive about him.
Yeah, Callum Wilson is now on the radar of Al Ittifaq, Steven Gerrard's former club, and they're looking to make a move potentially in the next 24 hours, but it all hinges on another transfer that they've got lined up at the same time, and that is Luke de Jong, who they've already made a formal one-year contract offer to. So what will happen is that de Jong has been given until tomorrow close of play to give a final answer on a $2 million net contract. He rejected it verbally via his agent, and Al Ittifaq have gone back and said there's no higher offer, so you give us your final answer by tomorrow. If Luke de Jong accepts, Ittifaq will do that deal. If he rejects, they're going to turn their attention to Callum Wilson.
Luke de Jong, another former Newcastle striker. Do they want a Jose Perez as well? Or Obafemi Martins, maybe? I'm not sure. But
Tino Asprilla,
Tino Asprilla, why not? Yeah. Oh, we could use him now, to be honest, Ben, Newcastle. Ben, thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
There we go. Ben Jacobs. This is Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, 18+, gambleaware.org. In just a moment, we're going to chat about Kweku's Chelsea.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Supercharge your odds with our odds boost button. Selected markets applies to first £50 of stake. Terms apply. 18+, gambleaware.org.
For it then.
I remember. Oh,
cool. At least I found out you've got a good voice, Kweku. Yeah, that's a nightmare, isn't it?
Honestly, we're jumping the gun though. It hasn't happened yet. He's got a thigh injury. That's why he couldn't fly.
This is Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, Ollie, Clink, alongside Kweku Afari. Let's check in on the World Match Play Darts at Winter Gardens. Paul Nicholson is watching for talkSPORT.
tell you what, guys, you really are starting to make me choke up there with those songs. But right now, James Wade is very, very close to choking up for a very different reason. He's 15-13 up in this quest to 16 legs in the first quarter-final. It is live on talkSPORT 2 and the talkSPORT YouTube channel right now. And after 8 consecutive legs won by Wade in the middle of the match, the number 9 seed is within one of the semi-finals for the 10th time in his career. So, 401 points away. Van Veen is going to have to win a couple of legs straight here to keep this one alive. We're live on talkSPORT 2 right now with Dance and with Chris Mason.
Exciting stuff. Yeah, talkSPORT 2 if you do want to give that a listen. Kweku, let's have a chat about your Chelsea. You've just had the time of your life, haven't you? Out there with the Zone, covering it as their Chelsea correspondent. You've chatted to most members of the squad. You gave João Pedro his first interview as a Chelsea player. So I really want to get stuck into that. But just firstly, you know, in terms of that as an achievement, and particularly Enzo Maresca, where are you with him as a Chelsea supporter? Because I do think that there was a time during last season where a few Chelsea fans were questioning his tactics and his style of play and finding it a bit boring, and the results weren't matching it, and it looked for a bit as if they were going to drop out of that top 4. They managed to get back and seal that place in the Champions League. They then managed to win the Conference League, and then they've gone on to win the Club World Cup. He's doing a great job, isn't it? There's not much more, I don't think, that he could have achieved last season.
No, it was an absolutely amazing end to the season for Chelsea. Of course, started on fire. Talks of the title race, from my point of view, were premature. And they fell off in the middle part of the season, but managed to regain their form towards the back end. And let's not forget that when it got to the run-in, everybody looked at Chelsea's fixtures and said, you've got Newcastle away, you're playing against Manchester United, you've got Liverpool, you've got Forest away. Chelsea aren't going to make the top 4. And if you look at Chelsea in their last 16 games in all competitions, they've won 14 of those. The 2 games they lost, Newcastle away, Nicholas Jackson red card. And then against Flamengo, the Club World Cup, Nicholas Jackson red card. And so Chelsea have been one of the most informed teams in the world. And so the Club World Cup victory may have taken some people by surprise, but if you've been watching Chelsea closely, this young group of players have found new ways to win games that are challenging. And that was a difficulty for Chelsea. Dropping points, losing games against teams that they shouldn't. And now they've found that knack of winning, and you can sense the belief starting to grow amongst the youngest side. Let's remember, the youngest side in Premier League history last year in terms of average age. They managed to qualify for the Champions League in terms of finishing in the top 4. It wasn't finishing 5th. They finished 4th ahead of Newcastle. They won the Conference League, and then they won the Club World Cup. And you can talk about the journey to the final. They played against maybe easier opposition than other teams in that competition. But in the final, a team universally recognised as the best team in the world in PSG, Chelsea turned them over 3-0. And so Enzo Maresca deserves a lot of credit. And what we've seen in the Club World Cup is tactical flexibility.
Yes.
When you talk to Leicester fans, the reason why they weren't too fussed about losing Enzo Maresca is they said he was too stubborn. He stuck to his philosophy. There's only one way to play football. He has found different ways to skin a cat. And in this Chelsea team, we've seen him play so many different formations, so many different players in different areas of the field. He's found new ways to utilise Cole Palmer. And I think for a manager that came under criticism halfway through the season, he deserves all the credit in the world. And now we're going to see what he does when you've got a team that has expectation on them. That's a completely different kettle of fish. And let's see how he evolves as a manager. But in terms of assessing his first season in charge at Chelsea, he's done a very, very good job.
What are your expectations for next season? What would you like to see as a Chelsea fan in terms of a result? You know, are we talking top 4 again? Are we talking a title challenge? Are we talking other silverware? What are you expecting to see?
Top 4 is a minimum. Top 4 is a minimum. If you look at Chelsea under Clear Lake, like I mentioned before, first season finished 12th. Second season brought in Poch, finished 6th. Last season finished 4th. It's been constant progression under Clear Lake. Again, a much derided ownership group when they came in and took over from Roman Abramovich.
How do you feel about them now as a Chelsea fan?
Again, the proof is in the pudding. And unfortunately or fortunately, football's a results-dependent business. And their team are getting results. And so as a Chelsea fan, as a man who's followed Chelsea for over 2 decades, I'm pleased with what I'm seeing. Again, the transfer strategy is unorthodox. Chelsea signed a lot of players, but then flip players for a lot of money. And you look at teams that are struggling to sell players, a team like Manchester United, who perpetually struggle to shift players who are on high wages. Chelsea have found a new way, season after season, to shift players or bring players in and then flip them for a profit within a season. And so they deserve a lot of credit in terms of yielding results, but now it's the next step. And the next step is the most difficult one. We've seen Arsenal challenge for the last 3 seasons, finishing second 3 consecutive seasons, and not get over the line. This is a Chelsea team and a Chelsea fan base that are expectant. They've seen their team win it all, literally win every single trophy there is to win over the last 20 years. And so Chelsea fans are expecting the title challenge for sure. And it might be an unpopular thing to say publicly because you want to kind of dampen expectations. But realistically, what we've seen from Chelsea over the last 2 or 3 months suggests that they are ready to mix it with the big boys in the Premier League, ready to mix it with the Arsenals, the Man Cities and the Liverpools. And Chelsea fans will expect to see their team go deep in the Champions League, go deep in domestic cups, which they were poor in last season, and make a real challenge for the Premier League title.
Interesting stuff. Now, I brought up, obviously, you spoke to a lot of that Chelsea. I mean, you found yourself on the pitch celebrating the club. Was Big Donald there? Did you bump into him?
I didn't bump into him, no. It'd be very difficult to bump into him, but I did see him from afar, and obviously he crashed Chelsea's trophy lift, which is
Were you tempted to do that as well?
No.
No.
We got Kweku Afari. He's a great guy, really. They say he's the best funded.
You're dying to get that off.
That's the only reason I brought him up.
Yeah, you were dying to get that off.
I might bring up Jim White later as well. We'll see another one. No, I'm joking. But I want to talk to you about your chat with Cole Palmer. Where were you? Central Park, I think.
Central Park, yes.
Having a little walk and talk with Cole Palmer.
CP with CP.
CP, I love that. Yeah. That's brilliant. But it was a really interesting chat, and you can find it on your Instagram, I'm sure. What's your handle? Go on.
Kweku_Afari. Kweku spelled KWEKU_Afari AFARI.
Yeah, give me a tenner later for all those new followers. But yeah, it's a really interesting chat because you talked to him, didn't you, about his goals as a footballer, and I thought he had some really interesting answers.
Yeah, he's an interesting player. He's an interesting person, and he doesn't chase protagonism. Protagonism has found him. He's a player that is seemingly impervious to the trappings of fame and fortune. He just wants to play football. He's a man from Wivenshaw that just loves footy. And that's what I really took away from the conversation. Again, he's a superstar. The brand of Cole Palmer is huge. He's got the patterns of celebration. When you walk through Central Park, when you're in Times Square, you see his face plastered absolutely everywhere. But he remains true to himself. And what that is a maverick. He's a hark back to football when football was great. A player that gets the ball and makes things happen. And truly watching him up close in person, especially in that final, you see how special he is. And in that conversation that I did have with him, he talked about how he had an awful patch last season where he went goalless for a long period of the season. And again, I think he was being hard on himself. He still created the most chances in the Premier League. His players or his teammates weren't taking those chances. But the fact that he called the season where he scored 15 goals an awful season is testament to what he thinks he is as a footballer. He said that he wants to score 20 Premier League goals minimum every year. As a non-striker, to me, that took me back. I was like, okay, you think you're one of the best players in the world, clearly, because nobody has those expectations unless you're a number 9. And so from that conversation, I took from the fact that he is a player that expects the best, he wants to be the best, and he's on course to be one of the best players in the world.
I thought something else that was interesting that he said, and I want your thoughts on it too, was you asked him what he cares about in terms of achievements, and you said, winning a Ballon d'Or, do you care too much about that? And he was like, do you know what? Not massively. Not massively into those individual awards. I'm actually more into winning trophies. What did you make of that answer?
I think he knows that those individual awards will come. They came in his first season, right? Young player this season, all the awards that come with being one of the best players in the league, and he knows that they are a byproduct of your team being successful. The players that we talk about winning Ballon d'Ors, they're in those conversations because they win Champions League, they win league titles, and he knows at Chelsea, where he is the main character, the main man, if he wins major trophies at Chelsea, those awards will come. And like I said, he's such an interesting person because the brand of Cole Palmer is huge, but that's not by design. That's just as a factor, or by the fact that he is a player that has such an aesthetically pleasing game, a player that is so graceful to watch. And like I said, I think he's going right to the very top if he's not there already. And he is all
right, Harry Redknapp.
he's a man that can do it all with the ball at his feet. We saw it for the second goal at the Club World Cup final, the way that he just shifted and put the ball in the bottom corner. He's a very, very talented player, and I'd say probably the most talented player Chelsea have had since Eden Hazard. And they are two very different players, but in a way they're similar. They're mavericks. They get the ball and they make things happen. They get fans off their seats. And Cole Palmer, at this Chelsea side that are young and exciting, he is the man that has to come to the fore of Chelsea to win major titles going forward.
Your best mates now then? Oh, yeah?
Not best mates, but he knows who I am.
Oh, really? Yeah. Everyone knows who you are, mate. Don't worry about that. Up next here on Transfer Insiders, we're going to round up all of the stories of the day. Stay with us. This is Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. I'm Olly, Clink. Alongside me is DAZN's Chelsea correspondent Kweku, Afari. This is your whistle-stop tour of the biggest transfer news of the day. Now, today's big story, of course, is that Alexander Isak has said that he's exploring other options, potentially moving away from Newcastle. He's not travelled with the Newcastle squad for their pre-season tour either. Earlier on Hawksby and Jacobs on talkSPORT, Daily Mail chief football reporter Craig Hope joined the show. He was the man who broke the story and discussed the latest on the Swedish international and what the future looks like for him.
My information is that Alexander Isak wants to accelerate that. He's told the club he's keen to explore his options, and this is the situation we're at now. He hasn't travelled out here with the rest of the squad to Singapore. They're currently in the air. The official reason for that was given as a thigh injury. Now, both things can be true. Alexander Isak may well be nursing a thigh injury. He's certainly got a history of such issues, but it can also be true that he wants to explore that move away, and that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, as a Newcastle fan, absolutely heartbreaking, of course, for me. But yeah, I mean, Craig also in that conversation was talking about where he expects Isak to potentially turn up. Now, actually, as well, Craig didn't rule out Isak still being a Newcastle player at the start of this season. It says obviously it's unlikely given the situation, but it's still a possibility. And that may be, Kweku, is because when you look at the business that a lot of those top clubs have done, a lot of them seem to have got a number 9 of sorts through the door. Arsenal with Gyökeres, Liverpool with Hugo Ekitike. But we've seen the way that Liverpool have operated already in this transfer window in terms of fixing the roof while the sun is shining. So it wouldn't be that much of a surprise, would it, if they do go for Alexander Isak as well as Ekitike?
It indicates that like the Liverpool are the landing spot, or is a landing spot for Isak. But again, they've done a lot of business already, and Newcastle, they do still hold the rights to the player. They don't have to sell him. I know that he's not gone on the pre-season tour, but he is still a Newcastle player. So let's see how this story unfolds. For Liverpool, like the rich get richer. If they manage to secure his services, it makes them clear favourites of the Premier League this upcoming season. And he's a player that can do it all as a striker. He's so versatile. You would have seen him over the last few seasons. He is just the complete striker. The touch is so deft. The movement is so silky. And he wants to be a superstar. You can see it in the way that he carries himself. And so it would be a huge coup for anybody that can sign him. And for Newcastle, it's a dagger, right? And Newcastle, George Corkin said this, reporter for the Athletic. He said that Newcastle are approaching becoming an elite team, but they're not yet an elite club. And that's why they find themselves in this situation. Their average wage bill is far lower than that of the top teams in the division. And it means it's difficult to keep players like Alexander Isak, who, again, we're not dismissing what Newcastle are as a football club, but may have viewed the move to Newcastle as a stepping stone. And Newcastle fans might not want to hear that, but they're not yet the final destination. They are the road to the destination. And for a player like Isak, who wants to win the biggest trophies, seemingly, Newcastle might not be the club for him to do that.
I think this is the biggest frustration, to be honest, as you know, as a Newcastle supporter, and I'm sure there's others that agree with this as well. But it's unbelievably frustrating when in the past this has obviously happened. You know, we've seen all sorts of big players leave the club, and it's something that Newcastle fans got used to. I mean, especially obviously during the reign of Mike Ashley. But you know, it felt different this time around, and the club was so clear with their stance that he wasn't for sale. The thing that is incredibly frustrating is the fact that if they maybe offered him a contract a bit earlier with a bit of a pay rise and struck while the iron was hot, I think Isak, you know, from the reports we've heard, probably would have signed that, and then they'd have been holding on to him for even longer. As it happens, they haven't improved his pay, despite the fact that he's deserved it. They want to keep this wage structure within the club. I understand that, but he's one of the best number 9s in world football, and as a result, they're paying the price because he's heading into this summer, and let's be honest, Kweku, why wouldn't it be? You know, it's hard to be angry with him because you know you'd sit there and you go, hold on, this club have brought in one major player this summer. They haven't brought anyone in for the last 3 windows. This is meant to be a club that are pushing on, that are trying to challenge for a title, and that so far you've only brought in Anthony Elanga in this window. So I don't know. As hard as it is, I can understand, given the pay he's on as well, why he is looking elsewhere and maybe wants to crack on with his career. As heartbreaking as it is.
No, and it must be heartbreaking for Newcastle fans. But then I'll throw something back to you. If it's inevitable that he's going to leave eventually, and you can potentially get 150 mil this year, that's only going to diminish next season. It's going to be less than that. And
but where are Newcastle going to be without him? That's the problem. That's the problem. That's why I think you need to hang on to him as long as possible.
But you're going to have to replace him anyway next season. So why not just accelerate that, do it this season, bite the bullet, take the money and move on with the project? And if you reinvest that, like we've seen in a team like Liverpool do, ironically, when they got the Coutinho money in, they invested that in Van Dijk, they invested that in Alisson, and they went and won the Champions League and won the Premier League. And so it's about where you go if you do sell Isak. I know it seems like doom and gloom right now, but there's a potential for Newcastle to maybe go on to bigger and better things. I think back to when Spurs sold Gareth Bale and it seemed like the end of the world. And off the back of that, they became a way more successful team consistently, always finishing in the top 4, got to a Champions League final. And so I know nobody wants to sell their best players, but if the opportunity presents itself and the player wants to leave, you can't really do anything about it. I can't remember in the history of football when a superstar player says, I want to leave, a club managing to convince him to stay, maybe other than Harry Kane, who stayed at Spurs for way too long.
It's gone, isn't it? It's gone.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but and also, can you imagine, I don't know, the reception. If he starts the season in a Newcastle shirt, I'm so unsure because actually, I'm not sure how much bad blood there is. I'm in the camp that, he's achieved so much for Newcastle. He's a Newcastle legend for me. That can't be denied.
Is he a Newcastle legend?
He has to be because of the trophy win for me.
Does this sour it? Does this sour it in terms of how he's leaving?
I think for some fans it will be. It definitely will be. But the way I look at it, I can't begrudge him it in these circumstances. I just can't. It's obviously frustrating when you hear that anyone doesn't want to play for your club anymore, and obviously in an ideal world you'd love to keep him, and it also it obviously stings if he goes to a Premier League rival, especially and especially when it's a team like Liverpool where Newcastle are trying to catch up with those teams, but it's just so difficult to do that. So yeah, of course, and I could completely understand if some fans are now completely turned against him, but for me that cup winning squad and him in particular with what he's achieved in terms of helping Newcastle get up back into the Champions League and for winning that trophy, it's hard not to give him a title like that.
Yeah, I understand that, but I suppose it's down to fans to determine if they're a legend or not, and some fans will turn, right? Because you never want to hear a player want to leave your club, especially a club like Newcastle where it's all about fans and passion and wanting to play for the shirt. It's never nice to see that or hear that. But if you do manage to get a huge fee for him, you manage to reinvest that in the team and you manage to go again and consistently qualify for the Champions League, then there'll be a distant memory Alexander Isak in a couple of seasons.
There have been some names linked already in terms of replacements and some names Newcastle were linked with already and almost were being looked at as potential cover for Isak. And some of the names I was looking pretty happy with, but I think they're going to need to bring in more than one now. The two names I throw at you are Yohan Wissa, who the club are in talks with and trying to advance the deal with, and the other one is Benjamin Sesko. Kweku, if they lose Alexander Isak for a sizable fee and they bring in Wissa and Sesko, is it that much of a disaster, do you think?
No, I don't think it's a disaster, because if you look at a player like Sesko, who I really like, he's the same age as Isak when he joined Newcastle, and I think he's on the same trajectory where big teams maybe are reluctant to take a punt because his goal scoring record is not exemplary, but he's a player with so much ability and he can forecast where he's going to be in a couple of seasons. And if he comes to Newcastle, he replaces Alexander Isak and he scores loads of goals and helps you win trophies and qualify for the Champions League and maybe even challenge and win the Premier League, then like I mentioned, Isak will be a distant memory. We remember the furor when Liverpool sold Fernando Torres to Chelsea. But then they brought in Luis Suarez and people forgot about Fernando Torres. And so it seems like the end of the world when you're losing some of your best players, but it's down to the board now. It's down to the people that run things in Newcastle to make sure that if you do sell Isak, firstly, you get an adequate fee for him, and secondly, you replace him with quality, and not just one player but a couple of players like you mentioned. You try and bring in a Sesko, you try and bring a Visa, and you try and go again, because this is always going to happen, right? Unless you are Real Madrid, eventually your best players are going to want to go elsewhere. I've seen it as a Chelsea fan. I'm bracing myself for that those talks when Cole Palmer eventually does what Cole Palmer's supposed to do, and you hear the likes of Real Madrid or Barcelona interested in the services. Unless you are the final destination, this is always going to happen to your football club.
Yeah. Do you know who else Liverpool signed that window? Andy Carroll from Newcastle for 35 million. Don't forget that one either. This is Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. 18 plus, gambleaware.org. We'll discuss more of this in just a moment. We'll hear from Kieran Maguire on the PSR situation. How are Liverpool able to potentially afford that deal? And we'll hear from Ben Jacobs with all the latest transfer bits too. Let's check in on the World Match Play darts, shall we? At Winter Gardens for talkSPORT. Here's Ian Danter.
Evening to you, Ollie. Well, James Wade, the 2007 winner and number 6 seed, is through to the semi-finals on Saturday night, having beaten Jan van Veen, the unseeded young Dutchman, by 16 legs to 13. He didn't start well, Wade. He was 4-1 down at the first comfort break, but then reeled off 9 legs in a row, including 2 11-darters. And despite looking like he was a little bit low on energy towards the end of the match, he got the job done to get through to the last 4, where he will face the winner of the match that's just begun on the stage at the Empress Ballroom. Johnny Clayton has gone off like an absolute train against Stephen Bunting, the 5th seed against the 4th seed respectively. He took out the first leg with an 11-darter. He's just broken Stephen Bunting to go 2-0 up, and he's on a 9-darter. You want to check out the fun and hear live free commentary of this? Just go to either the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel, or there's also live commentary right now, Ollie, over on talkSPORT 2.
Yeah, and I tell you what, darts on the radio, it just works. So check that out over on talkSPORT 2. Dance, thanks very much indeed. This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. I'm Olly Clink. Alongside me is Kweku Afari. This is your Whistles Top 12 of the biggest transfer news of the day. A bit earlier on, football finance expert Kieran Maguire joined the show, and he talked to us about the potential strong financial position that Liverpool are in and how they could possibly also afford Alexander Isak.
Liverpool are in an incredibly strong position, and the reason for that, Ollie, is twofold. First of all, in terms of the money coming in at Anfield, they now have an expanded stadium, and the new tickets and the new seats that are available are going to the hospitality, to going to the corporate fans, and the yield there tends to be very high. They've got the new shirt deal, which comes in on the 1st of August with Adidas. That's going to be a substantial increase. They are incredibly popular with sponsors, and sponsors will have paid bonuses for them winning the Premier League. So all of those are positives in terms of the money coming in. Trent's gone, he was on a very high wage. Quanza's gone, that will be pure profit. So they're actually in a strong position. And then I've got the figures in front of me in terms of spending, and of the big six, or the old school big six, shall we say, Liverpool were 6th in the position over the course of the last 3 to 4 years. So they'd actually been keeping their powder dry relatively to the other clubs. They spent £1 billion less than Chelsea during that period.
There we go. I mean, they've just been saving up their pocket money, haven't they? And now they are splashing the cash. And, it's just looking frightening, isn't it, for Liverpool? It really is. Florian Wirtz coming in, one of the most highly rated attacking players in world football at the moment. You've secured Mo Salah on a new contract too, who's still utterly prolific. You've secured Van Dijk as well. I think they should be taken into account when we're even talking about this window too. But you've brought in Milos Kerkez, who had a fantastic season for Bournemouth. Jeremy Frimpong as well. If they get Isak over the line too, that has surely got to be, I'm going to say, I think that's the best transfer window for a club in Premier League history.
I agree. And rewind 6 months where Salah was out of contract, Van Dijk was out of contract, Trent was out of contract, and Liverpool fans were asking, what are FSG doing? And now we're here talking about them potentially having the greatest transfer window we've ever seen from an English club. And it's testament to the way they've been pretty cautious when it comes to business. They've not jumped at opportunities that haven't suited them, and now they find themselves in an incredibly strong position. And that's where you want to be. You want to strengthen when you're already strong. They're the Premier League champions, and they're only getting better. And I managed to watch Florian Wirtz at the Euros last year, and all the talk was about Jamal Musiala. But Musiala was the one being pushed out of position to accommodate Florian Wirtz because he is that good. He's a player that will take 2 or 3 months to settle, but when he does settle, he will be one of the best players in the Premier League. And you look.
Should we just all pack up and go home?
No. Because the thing is, we look at the other teams in this transfer window, and they've also gone big. And it takes my mind back to last summer, right? The teams that finished in the top 4. Look at the business they did last summer compared to this summer. Look at Arsenal, for example. Their summer last year was bringing in Mikel Merino, Calafiori, and Raheem Sterling. None of those players, barring Marino, who was a makeshift striker, had a significant impact on their starting 11. Chelsea summer was a mess. The only player that really had a major impact was Pedro Neto, but that's towards the back end of the season. Man City brought in Savinho and Gundogan. A poor summer, ostensibly. And you look at Liverpool, who only brought in Chiesa, who they're going to shift this summer, and Mamardashvili, who they stuck out on loan, who again, they're hoping he's a future star. So last summer was a very, very poor one for the top Premier League sides, and that's why we've seen them re-up in a major way this summer. And it's going to be a very competitive Premier League, but in my mind, there's no doubt that Liverpool go into it as favourites.
Yeah, that competitive though, given that Liverpool have already won it at a canter last season. There's just so many goals in that team. That's the thing. I mean, even if there is problems at the back in terms of potential injury for Van Dijk or Konate, etc., they're just going to be able to outscore any team that comes their way, surely.
Well, take your mind back to 2020 when Liverpool won the league at a canter, got to 99 points, and I know it was a lockdown season, but they blew everybody out the water. In that summer, they brought in Thiago Alcantara, who was off the back of having one of the best centre midfield performances in the Champions League final that I have seen, and brought in Diogo Jota as well. And they struggled in that following season because of injuries, because of other factors. And so there's no guarantee that transfers translates to a great season. Of course, clubs or fans want to win the transfer window, but these players have to work and have to fit the system. And we saw Liverpool win the league without signing any significant players last summer. So again, they are favourites clearly, but we don't know what's going to happen. The Premier League is the most unpredictable league in the world. Let's see if Gyökeres hits the ground running. Let's see how Pedro Neto or João Pedro and Chelsea's new signings look. Let's see if Shirky and Aït-Nouri make a big impact to Man City. We don't know what's going to happen, but one thing is for sure, Liverpool are making a big statement, and this is their bid to not only be the most successful team in the country, but be the biggest team in the country. And I think that's the next step for Liverpool. We all know about
Build a dynasty,
how historic and how great they are as a football club, but they are not that behemoth when it comes to commercial commodities in this country. That's still Manchester United, but Liverpool are making a bid for it in this transfer window, and let's see how it works out.
Now, a bit earlier on, talkSPORT's transfer correspondent Ben Jacobs told us not only about the latest news with Alexander Isak, but he did give Newcastle fans, such as myself, a bit of hope.
Alexander Isak is well contracted. He's exploring options. He chose not to go on the pre-season tour. And yet it can also be true that he's got a thigh injury as well. But because the scan came back clear and was a precautionary measure, clearly if Alexander Isak wanted to fly, he could have done. So it's a combination of two things, a minor injury and Isak wanting to explore options, which at face value does point towards an exit, but it's a British transfer record fee exit. It certainly has complications. And from Liverpool's point of view, although it's anticipated that they may make another formal approach, there's a lot of things that have to fall into place, such as outgoings and still agreeing a fee with Newcastle United. And there is a scenario at the other extreme where all of this noise leads Newcastle into changing their perspective and breaking the bank to try and keep Isak on a new deal. And I think that's where we're at, with Liverpool being given encouragement, but at the other extreme, the possibility that Newcastle throw the kitchen sink at Isak to try and keep him.
I mean, at least they're not going to be selling Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak in this window, according to Ben Jacobs.
Silver lining, mate.
Bit of a silver lining, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, but it is a worry, because at the moment, if Isak goes, Newcastle head into this season with just William Asula as a senior number 9. Obviously, Callum Wilson has left the club too. So, real worry, you're heading into a Premier League and Champions League campaign with just one striker. And, listen, Asula seems like he'll be a good player in the future, but certainly isn't ready, I think, to lead Newcastle's line right now. There have been, of course, a lot of names linked. The likes of Johan Wissa, who scored 19 Premier League goals last season for Brentford. He's 28 years old. Brentford want around 40 million for him. They might be able to agree on around 35 million. Benjamin Sesko is another name that is linked with Newcastle, a player that has been linked with Arsenal throughout the entire summer. A real hot prospect, it feels, Sesko. But I've been thinking, Kweku, and I don't know if I've just been wrapped up in this kind of situation, but there is a player that Liverpool potentially want to get off their books. Am I going crazy, right? Am I going to get laughed out of town if I suggest Darwin Núñez to Newcastle? I mean, it's a definite downgrade. Let's not lie. Yeah. If he's being swapped with Isak, I'm not suggesting that, but would he work with Newcastle's system?
He would
He's
work,
that kind of player.
He would work with the Newcastle fans. He's a player that would get the fans excited. That similar dog in him to like a Joe Linton, where he will play for the shirt. And ironic, right? The high point of his Liverpool career was that brace against Newcastle, those 2 late goals. And he's a player that seems to be surplus to requirements at Liverpool, especially if they bring in an Alexander Isak. And so let's see how that develops. I know there's suitors abroad for him, and the fee might be the issue. They want around about 70 million euros for him, and I don't know if Newcastle stump up that cash for a player that hasn't necessarily lit the league alight, or set the league alight. So let's just watch that situation. But he's a player that has got great qualities, but I just don't know if he's a banker to score you goals, and I don't know if he's the man to replace Alexander Isak.
I haven't sold myself on it, to be honest with you. I really haven't.
I think Sesko, mate. I think Sesko, and again, I'm a Chelsea fan, but let me see your Darwin Núñez and raise you a Nicholas Jackson. What do you say to that?
No. In fact, would I rather... That's a good question. How has it got to this? This has been the lowest part of the day. This is the lowest part of the day. Would I rather have Nicholas Jackson or Darwin Núñez instead of Alexander Isak? I think I'd rather have Núñez. At least he gets sent off a bit less.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I mean, Nicholas Jackson, again. I mean, I think with both of them, the struggle is the finishing.
Yes.
And they're not prolific enough. And that is what Isak has given Newcastle in spades since he's been at the club. So, look, I mean, in terms of clinical finishing, let's not lie. Wissa, he scored more goals from open play than Isak last season in the Premier League. So, maybe him. Johan Wissak. That's what I'm...
He's a good player, man.
He's good. Sesko as well. I don't think it's a disaster of a window, but I think there's a long way to go for Newcastle.
I know it's been doom and gloom, and we played the songs out the break in terms of heartbreak and players leaving your football club, but there is a silver lining, man. We've seen it historically. If you do sell Isak and you do reinvest in the right way, Newcastle can come again. And it was doom and gloom last summer when you didn't do much business and you finished in the Champions League places and had the best season in your history.
Got a text from Ryan, Newcastle fan. Clinky, Nunez, no way. I'd rather stick John Ruddy up front. There we go. Pretty definitive there for Ryan. Thanks, mate. I needed that, Ryan. Thank you very much indeed. This has been the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. The show is live tomorrow on radio, YouTube, Smart TV, and the talkSPORT app from 7 o'clock tomorrow. And you can catch the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Acast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up next here on talkSPORT, it's the Sports Bar with Jamie O'Hara and Carlton Cole, with special guest from Man vs. Food, Adam Richmond. Don't go anywhere.